Chapter 205. Master Awu, wake up. Let's go find Bufang. Inside the inn, a knock sounded on the door. Wu Yunbai, dressed in a white robe, had her hands behind her back as she knocked on the door. A flurry of hurried footsteps could be heard in the room. After a long while, Master Awu walked out of the room and nodded at Wu Yunbai with a sheepish smile. "Miss, you're up early today," Master Awu said. "Early my ass. The sun is already high up in the sky, and it's still early. Come on, let's go find Bufang." Wu Yunbai rolled her eyes at Master Awu and led the way out of the inn. The two of them walked out of the inn, squinted their eyes to determine their direction, and walked toward Fong Fong's little store. They had asked the waiter in the inn, so they were not in the wrong place. The two of them walked for a while and came to a remote alley. According to the waiter, Fong Fong's little store was located in this small alley. The two of them were curious, because this alley was not as secluded as they had imagined. Instead, it was very lively, with people constantly coming out of the alley, carrying drunkards who exuded a strong aroma of alcohol. In the distance, two figures slowly approached. The young man in the lead had a gentle and handsome face, a gentle smile on his lips, and his body exuded an intimidating pressure. The fair-skinned elder beside the young man was a little strange. He walked with a swaying waist, his fingers pinched like an orchid. This strange combination made Wu Yunbai raise her eyebrows, and her expression became serious, because she could sense the cultivation level of the effeminate elder beside the young man was very strong. At least from the aura that he inadvertently revealed, he was even stronger than Master Awu. Nowadays, the Imperial City is really a mess. Battle saints can be seen everywhere. Wu Yunbai mumbled to herself, then ignored him and led Master Awu into the alleyway. "Uncle Lien, do you know those two?" Ji Qingxua looked at Wu Yunbai's back and gently asked Lien Fu beside him. Lien Fu lightly waved his orchid fingers and said, "These two are obviously not from our Light Wind Empire. How would I know them? Then they must be foreign battle saints. Are they also here for the 5 Stripes Path Understanding Tree? Is this thing really that attractive?" Ji Qingxua murmured, "Oh my, your majesty, the 5 Stripes Path Understanding Tree is a treasure of heaven and earth that can help a 7th grade battle saint step into the 8th grade. Not to mention other battle saints, even this old servant. Oh my, I can't help it," Lien Fu said as he flicked his orchid fingers 3 times. Ji Qingxua nodded. As it could help a 7th grade battle saint advance to 8th grade, the value of the Path Understanding Tree was self-evident. However, this seed had been planted in their imperial palace for so long, and they had used so many methods but still failed to grow it. How did it come to life in the hands of Owner Bu and was even about to mature? Perhaps Bufang had some soil that could nurture the growth of heaven and earth treasures. Perhaps this 5 Stripes Path Understanding Tree was destined not to belong to his palace. Let's go and have a look at Owner Bu's new wine. Regarding this, I'm looking forward to it very much." Ji Qingxua smiled and strode forward. The light green wine flowed along Ai Yan's pink lips, brushed past her jade-like teeth, and dripped into her mouth. A burning sensation like a raging flame suddenly burst forth in her mouth, causing Ai Yan's fair and pretty face to be instantly covered with a layer of red. Her dainty tongue lightly licked her lips and lightly exhaled. As the wine flowed down her throat, Ai Yan's entire body stiffened like an iceberg. The feeling of heat instantly transforming into ice cold made Ai Yan blush uncontrollably and moan softly. When the 3 explosions burst forth in her abdomen, the feeling made Ai Yan raise her head. Her fine black hair spread out, her pearly white teeth bit her red lips, and her drunken eyes glazed over. Good wine. Taking another sip, the wine's strength instantly surged. Ai Yan felt her entire head become slightly dizzy, and a peculiar path-understanding sound resounded in her ears. Path-understanding sound? Ai Yan's state of mind became a little more focused, and she earnestly sensed the feeling of path-understanding. Swallowing the last drop of wine in the blue and white porcelain cup, That feeling of comfort made Nai Yan's entire body feel a little weak. Yi Xiling, who was standing behind her and observing Nai Yan's movements, hurriedly hugged Nai Yan and asked worriedly, "Sister Nai Yan, are you all right?" Sealing the bottom of an iceberg, the dragon's breath, shocking the world in a single day. Ha ha ha. Old drunkard, look at how pleased you are. Right now, Owner Boo's wine is even better than your dragon's breath. Even better than your dragon's breath. And Yin blushed as she laughed out loud, waving her fair and slender arms everywhere. Yi Xiling was very embarrassed. She didn't even know what Yin was talking about. However, the drunken Yin had completely lost the image of a goddess. Although she never had the image of a goddess. Yi Xiling didn't understand Yin's words, but Bu Fong did. He heard Yin's evaluation of the two wines in her drunken stupor. Without a doubt, according to Yin's feelings, the Frostblaze Path Understanding wine was obviously a notch better. Congratulations to the host for completing the abrupt mission. Research and brew the Frostblaze Path Understanding wine to surpass the Dragon's Breath. Mission reward will now be issued. The system's solemn and serious voice rang out in Bu Fong's mind. Without a doubt, his Frostblaze Path Understanding wine had surpassed the Dragon's Breath, and he had finally completed this abrupt mission. Bu Fong let out a light breath. This was a feeling of relief. The completion of the mission made him feel a little happy. Yi Xiling supported Yin. Suddenly, Yin's delicate body trembled in her arms, and she suddenly opened her eyes. This woman's eyes revealed a look of shock. Her beautiful brows furrowed, and a wave of turbulence surged through Yi Xiling. Yin straightened her body and stood on the spot, deep in thought. Bang, bang, bang. 3 muffled sounds rang out one after another. The people in the queue immediately revealed astonished expressions as they looked toward the 3 barbarians of Ouyang who were sitting cross-legged on the ice-cold bricks of the alleyway. The auras of the 3 brothers were rapidly rising. A narrow, funnel-shaped spirit energy vortex appeared above their heads. Spirit energy continuously surged into their bodies and transformed into their true energy. The sound of a membrane being broken rang out. The auras of the 3 barbarians of Ouyang directly rose by a large margin. In an instant, they reached the peak of 5th grade Battle King. The onlookers became more and more astonished. Previously, the 3 brothers' cultivation levels were only at the initial stage of 5th grade Battle King, and their auras were even a little unstable. However, after drinking a cup of Frostblaze Path Understanding brew, the 3 brothers' cultivation levels actually rose to the peak of 5th grade Battle King at the same time. Is this a joke? Do you think breaking through is as easy as eating and drinking? The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. They knew that the 3 brothers' breakthroughs were definitely inseparable from the Frostblaze Path Understanding brew. The few people in front did not break through because they passed out from a single cup. They simply did not have the time to adjust the rich spirit energy contained within the wine. However, they should be able to break through soon. This wine could actually help people break through. At this moment, the hearts of the remaining people were burning with passion. If they could break through to the next level, 500 crystals would not be a loss. The remaining 4 cups of wine were sold without much hesitation. When the 4th cup was sold, Bu Fong instantly covered the jar of white jade wine. There was still half a jar of wine left. There were a total of 3 jars of Frostblaze Path Understanding brew. Bu Fong would not choose to brew this spirit wine in the future. It was not only because of the complicated process and the precious ingredients required. It was because the amount of energy needed to brew this spirit wine was too great. 3 jars of Frostblaze Path Understanding brew were enough. Sold out, sold out. After the 3 barbarians of Ouyang completed their breakthroughs, the drunkenness on their faces disappeared. The 3 of them stepped into the store and were about to thank Bu Fong when they realized that no one was looking at them. Instead, they were looking at the outrageously beautiful woman sitting cross-legged on the ground. The woman's long hair fluttered under the wind of true energy. As the true energy surged, there seemed to be signs of a breakthrough. The three barbarians of Ouyang remembered that this woman was a 7th grade battle saint. Chapter 206. On the long street of the imperial city, the hawkers on both sides of the street were hawking their wares, and there was an endless stream of pedestrians. A bald young monk wearing a black linen robe was carrying a basket of steaming buns, stuffing meat buns into his mouth as he walked. The white meat buns were steaming, but the young monk did not feel hot at all. He grabbed one with one hand and took a bite. Oil splashed everywhere, and the aroma of the meat buns permeated the air. As he walked, the basket of buns was quickly devoured by him. Casually tossing the basket of buns to the side of the street, the young monk wiped his oily mouth on his linen robe, then took out a gourd from his waist and poured wine into his mouth. Smacking his lips, his face was full of satisfaction. Only with wine and meat can life be called happy. The young monk grinned and walked toward Fong Fong's little store with big strides. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks and solemnly looked toward the direction of the alleyway, because he sensed an extremely terrifying wave of true energy surging out from the direction of the store. He took another sip of wine, his face extremely solemn. Which insensitive 7th grade battle saint is training in such a big way in the imperial city? The young monk grinned and laughed. Within the imperial city, there were many 7th grade battle saints. Almost every 7th grade battle saint had their hands tied and did not dare to do anything too ostentatious. After all, it was a very risky time to stand out and be the first to stand out. Forget it. Who cares if he is training to be a battle saint? My goal is just to gather some information. Hee, and at the same time to admire the legendary 5 stripes path understanding tree. The young monk chuckled, rubbed his bald head, patted it lightly, and strode out. Bufong carried the white jade wine jar into the kitchen, hid the white jade wine jar, and turned to leave the kitchen. As soon as he left the kitchen, he saw a few familiar figures. Looking at these figures, Bufong was slightly taken aback. When Wu Yunbai saw Bufong, her eyes suddenly lit up. It was indeed this kid. She did not go the wrong way. However, Wu Yunbai did not move, because she saw a 7th grade battle saint sitting cross-legged on the ground, seemingly in the midst of a breakthrough. A 7th grade battle saint breaking through. This was no laughing matter. The footsteps sounded again. 2 figures appeared at the door and stood behind Wu Yunbai. Ji Qingxue narrowed his eyes and looked at N.I. Yin, who was sitting cross-legged in the store. His heart suddenly turned serious. Was this woman making a breakthrough? Breaking through at such a sensitive time. Lien Fu, on the other hand, was rather emotional as he looked at the store. Ever since the last time he came here with the old emperor, he had never been here again. Suddenly seeing the warm atmosphere of the store, he couldn't help but be reminded of the past. He couldn't help but pinch his thumb and middle finger together and cry a few times. And Ayan's breakthrough did not last too long. Although her aura was rising, she did not break through the shackles of 7th grade battle saint and step into the realm of 8th grade war god. When the true energy in her body calmed down, Ayan opened her eyes helplessly. She drank a cup of wine and heard the path-understanding tune ringing in her ears, which almost made her enter a state of epiphany. Unfortunately, this state was too difficult, so Yin only improved a little from her original cultivation level of 7th grade battle saint. It was still too difficult for her to step into the realm of 8th grade war god. The true energy in the store dissipated, and Yin stood up and stretched. At this moment, her perfect figure was completely outlined and attracted the attention of many people. It's a pity, Owner Boo. Although your wine is not bad, it's still lacking a little to help me break through. However, this little bit is like a heavenly moat that's hard to cross. And Ayan's voice carried a trace of regret, but fortunately, she wasn't too sad. Although she did not succeed in breaking through, her cultivation level still improved. Owner Boo, long time no see. How have you been? Is your business booming? Ji Qingxue laughed heartily and stepped into the store. He cupped his hands slightly toward Bufong. Bufong looked at Ji Qingxue in surprise. Why did this busy man have the time to visit his store today? Didn't this guy become an emperor? Business is not bad, Bufang replied calmly. Wu Yunbai looked at the young man who suddenly appeared and disrupted the rhythm of her meeting with Bufang. Although from their conversation, she could tell that they were old acquaintances. Owner Bu's restaurant is always filled with the aroma of food that makes people hungry. Ji Chengxue sighed. Suddenly, his tone changed, and he said with a smile, Owner Bu, last night, you made a huge commotion when you brewed wine. The aroma of the wine enveloped half of the imperial city and shocked everyone. I wonder what kind of wine you brewed. Could you let this young master have a taste? Bufang glanced at Ji Qingxue and shook his head. He said, You are too late. Today's Frostblaze Path Understanding brew has been sold out. There will be no more sales. You can only order something else. Sold out? Ji Qingxue was taken aback for a moment. Then, he rubbed his chin and nodded. How could Bufang's store's selling method be the same as other stores? It had been a long time since he went to Bufang's store to drink. He had almost forgotten about Bufang's style. Haha, this young master forgot. In that case, Owner Bu, please give me a serving of ice hard jade wine and a serving of red braised meat. In the entire imperial city, Owner Bu's red braised meat is the most delicious. Bufang nodded and turned around to enter the kitchen to start cooking. However, a voice rang out behind him, causing Bufang to turn his head. Wu Yunbai walked to a spot not far from Bufang. She frowned and said, Bufang, you didn't forget about me, did you? Bufang looked at Wu Yunbai's expressionless face, twitched the corner of his mouth, and said, I didn't forget. I just didn't expect you to actually come. You still owe me the lotus seeds. I will definitely come. This is the key to whether I can break through or not. Wu Yunbai said in a serious tone. Bufang was stunned. The lotus seeds, at the thought of the lotus seeds, Bufang suddenly blinked and looked at Wu Yunbai in silence. Bufang's expression caused Wu Yunbai's expression to change drastically. Could it be that this guy had already wasted all the lotus seeds? That was a 7th grade spirit herb. How could it be wasted so casually? Suddenly, Wu Yunbai raised her fair and slender finger and pointed at Bufang while trembling. You didn't waste the lotus seeds, did you? Wasting doesn't count. I just used it, Bufang replied calmly. Looking at Wu Yunbai, Bufang thought of something else. It had already been a month. Why hadn't the Serpent Man arrived at the store? If the Serpent Man wanted to live, he would definitely come to his store to ask for the elixir cuisine. Could it be that there was an accident midway? Under normal circumstances, he should have arrived a long time ago. Since he hadn't shown up yet, there must have been an accident. Bufang sighed in his heart. How could you use the lotus seeds? What about my breakthrough? Where did you use the lotus seeds? Tell me quickly. Wu Yunbai was furious. It was not easy to get to the imperial city, but this guy had already used the lotus seeds. I used them to brew wine. Not a single seed is left, Bufang said. Brew wine. Lotus seeds could be used to brew wine? Wait a minute. Wu Yunbai seemed to have thought of something and stared at Bufang with wide eyes. The wine this guy was talking about. Could it be the bar whose aroma covered half of the imperial city last night? Using a 7th grade spirit herb to brew wine. Brother, can we not be so extravagant? Wu Yunbai's heart ached, so much so that she could barely breathe. What about the wine? Let me have a taste. Maybe there's still some medicinal effects left, Wu Yunbai said with a mournful face, clinging to her last glimmer of hope. Oh, that wine has been sold out for today. Please come back tomorrow. Bufang looked at Wu Yunbai seriously and said. That serious look made Wu Yunbai want to kick him in the face. Outside the door, the sound of footsteps rose and fell again. Figures appeared one after another. The aura of a 7th grade battle saint had once again attracted the attention of the battle saints in the imperial city. Therefore, these battle saints appeared in the store one after another to prevent the 5 stripes path understanding tree from being stolen. Chapter 207. There was definitely no more wine today. Wu Yunbai looked at Bufang with an aggrieved expression. However, no matter how aggrieved she was, it would be useless. There are still many delicious dishes in the store. You can have a taste. If you want to order anything, Just tell this girl. In the end, Bufong even calmly patted Ouyang Xiaoyi's head and promoted the store's dishes. Then, he turned around and stepped into the kitchen. Ji Qingxue found a familiar spot near the five stripes path understanding tree and sat down. Fresh spirit energy floated around him, bringing with it some mysterious fluctuations. Ji Qingxue held his hands behind his back and slowly sized up the path understanding tree. His eyes were shining brightly. Outside the store, the spying gazes and auras had all retreated. Apparently, the Battle Saints had realized that this incident had nothing to do with the Five Stripes Path Understanding tree and left. The Path Understanding tree had yet to mature and bear fruit, so they did not want to get involved. Wu Yunbai ordered a few dishes. Although the prices of these dishes were staggering, as the young master of the White Cloud Villa, a mysterious faction that even the Celestial Arcanum sect feared, she still had enough crystals. Because she did not get any lotus seed from Bufong, Wu Yunbai vented all her anger on these dishes. And Ai Yin left with Yi Xiling. And Ai Yin was in a hurry to return to the inn to consolidate her newly improved cultivation, while Yi Xiling was purely following an Ai Yin. The store suddenly became a lot quieter. The people queuing up had all dispersed. The three barbarians of Ouyang also left eagerly. Having gotten a bargain, they were in a hurry to tell their fathers the good news. The rich aroma of the dishes quickly wafted out from the kitchen. This familiar aroma caused Ji Qingxue's gaze to shift away from the path understanding tree, and he felt a little emotional. Owner Bu's cooking is getting better and better. The aroma of the dishes is even more mesmerizing. Ji Qingxue took a deep breath and sighed. Lian Fu pinched his thumb and middle finger together as he sat to one side. His heart was still filled with nostalgia. This store once had the aura of the previous emperor. Although it had long dissipated, Lian Fu still felt an inexplicable sense of illusion and sadness. Reminiscing about the past, he pinched his thumb and middle finger again and started sobbing. Ji Qingxue looked at him helplessly. A rich, meaty aroma quickly filled the air. Ouyang Xiaoyi gracefully carried the red braised meat to Ji Qingxue's seat and placed the dish in front of him. Bufong also walked out of the kitchen, carrying a jar of ice heart jade urn wine. Ji Qingxue's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but lick his lips. It had been a long time since he had drunk Owner Bu's wine and eaten Owner Bu's dishes. He was craving for them. It smells so good. Ji Qingxue moved his nose close to the red braised meat and took a deep breath. His face was filled with an intoxicated expression as he spoke. Bufong's red braised meat was extremely fragrant. Even Wu Yunbai, who was sitting far away with a belly full of anger, could not help but be attracted by it. He picked up a piece of rosy, lustrous, and fragrant red braised meat and stuffed it into his mouth. After chewing for a while, he felt the comfortable feeling of his teeth rubbing against the fresh and tender venison. He couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. After swallowing a mouthful of meat, he poured a cup of ice heart jade urn wine and gulped it down. A comfortable feeling spread throughout his body. Bufong looked at Ji Qingxue's face filled with enjoyment. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he returned to the kitchen to continue cooking. The bald young monk squinted his eyes and walked into the alleyway with a smile on his face. As he walked toward the store, he saw the big black dog lying at the entrance. The young monk's eyes immediately lit up, and he licked his lips. What a fat dog. It must taste good. Blackie, who was taking a nap, suddenly felt a chill all over its body, as if a malicious gaze was staring at it. It couldn't help but open its doggy eyes and glance at the greedy looking at it. The monk. What the F asterisk CK? What kind of gaze is that? Blackie's doggy eyes widened. This was the first time he saw someone looking at the Lord go, as if he was looking at a delicious delicacy. Was this bald donkey trying to court death? The novice monk patted his bald head, and his expression changed, as if he was smiling. Red braised dog meat? That should be good. It's rare to find such a fat dog in the Imperial City. But forget it, I should first complete that old fox, Zhao Muxing's mission. The young monk smacked his lips and felt that it was a pity. He regretfully glanced at Blackie, shook his head, and stepped into the store. Blackie was dumbfounded. This bald donkey, is he trying to stir up trouble? What's with that regretful expression of yours? Blackie rolled its doggy eyes and went back to sleep. Meat, the aroma of meat. As soon as he stepped into the store, the young monk's eyes became even brighter. It was as if an egg was embedded with sparkling diamonds. There's wine. There's meat. This store is not bad. The young monk's gaze fell on Ji Qingxue, who was stuffing a juicy and fragrant piece of red braised meat into his mouth. He then looked at Wu Yunbai, who was taking a bite of an oily golden shumai. He couldn't help but gulp down a mouthful of saliva. The aroma that lingered in the store instantly lured out the gluttonous worm in his stomach. The satiety from eating a steamer of buns had also completely disappeared. Is this the place that old fox, Zhao Mushing, wanted me to complete the mission? The young monk couldn't help but smile. What would you like to eat? The menu is behind you. Tell me the name of the dish after you're done. Ouyang Xiaoi skillfully said to the strange monk who had just stepped into the store. The young monk was startled. He turned his head and saw the large pile of expensive dishes on the menu. The corner of his mouth suddenly twitched. Give this humble monk a serving of sweet and sour ribs and a jar of ice-hard jade-urn wine, the young monk said to Ouyang Xiaoi in a serious manner. Ouyang Xiaoi was stunned. Could monks nowadays drink and eat meat so openly? What was up with this guy ordering wine and meat with a serious face? Sweet and sour ribs and ice-heart jade-urn wine. Ouyang Xiaoi asked in return. That's right, almsgiver. Wine and meat pass through the intestines. A monk shouldn't be restricted by the secular world. He should eat and drink as long as he has Buddha in his heart. The young monk put his palms together with a serious expression. All right, wait a moment. Ouyang Xiaoi was stunned. Almsgiver, this humble monk has a small request. I would like to see the store's owner Bu, the young monk said with a smile. His face was full of kindness. You want to see the smelly boss? Wait a moment. He's not free right now. Ouyang Xiaoi frowned. She felt that there was something strange about this monk. The young monk was not in a hurry. He found a seat and sat down. Ouyang Xiaoi came to the kitchen window and reported the dishes the young monk had ordered to Bufang. This sweet and sour ribs and ice-hard jade-urn wine were ordered by a monk. Ouyang Xiaoi said curiously. And he said he wanted to see you. See me? Bufang was startled. He placed the dish on the window. After Ouyang Xiaoi took it away, he placed it in front of Wu Yunbai. The two of them ordered a lot of dishes and ate happily, unable to stop. They didn't expect Bufang's dishes to taste so good. When Bufang walked out of the kitchen, he was holding a plate of fragrant sweet and sour ribs in one hand and a jar of ice-heart jade-urn wine in the other as he approached the young monk. The young monk narrowed his eyes, glanced at Bufang, put his palms together, and sniffed. Your sweet and sour ribs and ice-heart jade-urn wine. Please enjoy, Bufang said calmly. After that, he calmly looked at the monk. The young monk stood up, his face full of smiles. I've long heard of Owner Bu's great name. I'm Shangda. I've admired Fong Fong's little store for a long time, so I've come to pay a visit today. Bufang didn't answer him. He was still looking at him expressionlessly. The young monk Shangda chuckled, touched his bald head, and lightly patted it. Owner Bu's cooking is quite good. This aroma is so tempting that I can't help myself. However, I'm here today because I have something to ask Owner Bu. Speak, Bufang said calmly. The young monk's expression suddenly became solemn. He put his palms together and slightly bowed toward Bufang. Monks are compassionate. On my way to the imperial city, I met a young serpent woman. Thinking that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda, I saved her. However, the young serpent woman was too heavily injured and fell into a deep coma. I was powerless. However, before the serpent woman fainted, she called out Owner Bu's name. Therefore, I'm here to ask if Owner Bu knows this serpent woman. Chapter 208. The young monk Shangda put his palms together. His face was filled with a benevolent and gentle smile. The smile on his face was almost piled up together as he stared straight at Bufang. However, his gaze was like a sharp sword, piercing the eyes. Snake-like woman? Bufong was stunned. Then, under the piercing gaze of the young monk, the corners of his mouth slowly curled up. I do, Bufong calmly replied. His expression did not change in the slightest. He was still wondering why the serpent men did not come looking for him. It turned out that they met with an accident on the way here. However, it was not strange for an accident to happen. The current imperial city was a gathering place. As a matter of fact, a group of experts had gathered at the entrance of the store last night. The serpent men were originally of a different race. For them to meet with an accident when they stepped into the territory of humans was completely normal. However, what was this monk trying to say? Bufong looked at the young monk Shangda with a puzzled gaze. And then? Do you need me to do anything? The young monk was delighted when he heard Bufong's confirmation. However, Bufong's question caused him a pause. He did not know how to answer Bufong's question. The one who captured the serpent men was that sly old fox, Zhao Mushing. If you really can't save them, then bring them here. Bufong glanced at the bald man, then turned around and returned to the kitchen. In the illusory spirit swamp, he had promised that if the serpent men came to his store, he would save them. However, this did not mean that if they met with an accident on the way here, Bufong would go looking for them. The young monk rubbed his head and grinned. All right, this boss had a personality. However, he could not answer this question, so he would let Zhao Mushing worry about it. The bald young monk returned to his seat and looked at the sweet and sour ribs on the table. The tangerine sweet and sour ribs exuded hot steam and a rich meaty aroma, triggering the hunger in his stomach. He had already eaten a basket of buns on the way here, but now his stomach was extremely hungry again. He picked up his chopsticks, tapped them lightly on the table, and picked up a piece of orange-red sweet and sour ribs. The meat of the ribs was slightly tender, and when the chopsticks picked it up, it seemed to have a slight elasticity. Licking his lips, the young monk first used his tongue to lick the sauce on the ribs. The sweet and sour sauce instantly made the young monk's eyes light up. After stuffing the sweet and sour ribs into his mouth, the young monk's eyes immediately lit up. The rich meaty aroma burst forth in his mouth, and the bouncy meat knocked against the walls of his mouth. So delicious. The novice monk continued to chew. His eyes widened as he let out a strange laugh. This rib was really King delicious. Gulp. The young monk swallowed the ribs in one gulp. He smacked his lips, intoxicated by the fragrance of the meat in his mouth. As a meat-eating monk, he had an incomprehensible fondness for meat. He would eat almost any kind of meat. This was largely due to the fact that he had survived alone in a boundless desert. There were no plants or spirit fruits in that desert, only furry spirit beasts. In order to survive, he ate raw meat and drank blood. The taste of the spirit beast's meat was simply unflattering. After returning from that place, the young monk Shangda developed an obsession with meat. He swore to eat all the delicious meat in the world. He poured a cup of ice-hard jade urn wine. The wine was as clear as spring water and emitted a rich wine aroma, causing the young monk's nostrils to slightly expand. With a slurp, the wine entered his mouth, accompanied by the fragrance of meat, causing the young monk to involuntarily let out a soft moan. In the distance, Ouyang Shaoyi widened her eyes as she stared at the bald monk who unscrupulously drank and ate meat. Her understanding of monks was completely overturned. Isn't it written in the books that monks don't drink or eat meat? Ouyang Shaoyi curled her lips. Looking at the young monk Shangda, whose mouth was dripping with grease, he did not resemble the monks recorded in the books at all. As expected, the books were all lies. The young monk crossed his legs and placed them on the stool. One of his legs trembled as he picked up a piece of sweet and sour ribs and placed it in his mouth. The young monk seemed to sense Ouyang Shaoyi's gaze and nodded at her with a face full of smiles. Ouyang Shaoyi harumphed and turned her head away. Ji Qingxue finished his meal and put down his chopsticks. His heart was filled with joy. It had been a long time since he had tasted Owner Boo's delicacies. Today was the first time he had eaten his fill. Uncle Lien, let's go, Ji Qingxue said to Lien Fu, who had already finished a plate of egg-fried rice. Lien Fu raised his orchid fingers and lightly grunted. He stood up reluctantly. This store was filled with memories. As an emperor, he could not leave the imperial palace for too long. Ji Qingshue's visit today was only to find out what the five-striped path understanding tree, which was coveted by many battle saints, looked like, as well as to taste Owner Bu's new wine. Although he felt it was a pity that he did not get to taste it, he was quite satisfied to review Owner Bu's craftsmanship. The two left. Wu Yunbai and Master Ah Wu were still working hard. The two ordered many dishes and ate happily. The Imperial Mausoleum. Light snow was gently falling. A gust of cold wind blew past, rustling the surroundings and making the rustling sound of tree leaves. The Imperial Mausoleum was located on top of a tall mountain. Due to the slight snowfall, the temperature was still much colder than the Imperial City, which had already begun to warm up. From a thatched hut, a man wearing plain linen clothes slowly walked out. The man held a broom and slowly stepped into the eerie and majestic Imperial Mausoleum that was filled with many towering tombstones. Holding the broom, he slowly swept away the fallen leaves that had fallen on the tombstones. The rustling sound reverberated in the silent Imperial Mausoleum, carrying with it a somewhat horrifying sound. TSK, TSK. The dignified King Yu, who dared to fight for the throne in the Imperial City, actually ended up in such a miserable state. Has the brilliance of the past all turned into flowing water? How sad and lamentable. Within the silent Imperial Mausoleum, a burst of sneering suddenly rang out and the crisp sound of footsteps echoed. The man who was holding the broom paused for a moment. He straightened his body and looked toward the person who was sneering. His eyes were incomparably lifeless, and his face was expressionless. Zhao Rouge, who was wearing a white robe, was standing with his hand behind his back. Beside him were several guards wrapped in black robes whose faces could not be seen clearly. The aura of these guards was extremely powerful and frightening, suppressing all the guards in the Imperial Mausoleum. Zhao Rouge strode forward and paced back and forth at the entrance of the Imperial Mausoleum. He did not step into the Imperial Mausoleum. As an outsider, he did not have the qualifications or courage to enter the Imperial Mausoleum. That was because he simply did not know what the consequences would be if an outsider were to step into the Imperial Mausoleum. Ji Qingyu looked at Zhao Rouge for a while, then lowered his head again and began to sweep the leaves that had fallen on the tombstones. His movements were slow and overflowing with an air of seniority. He no longer had the demeanor of the energetic King Yu from before. Your Highness, are you willing to stay in this Imperial Mausoleum for the rest of your life? Think about Ji Qingxue, who is currently sitting on the throne. Don't tell me you don't feel resentment and anger in your heart. Zhao Rouge's gaze was like lightning as he coldly said, "Why is it that you, King Yu, are guarding the Imperial Mausoleum like a stray dog while Ji Qingxue is comfortably sitting on the throne? What gave him the right to do so?" Ji Qingyu's eyes flickered and a trace of a bitter smile appeared in his lifeless eyes. Zhao Rouge, do you think the current me still has the ability to compete with Ji Qingxue? Everything is already a foregone conclusion. Imperial Father has chosen him, and I am a complete loser. Loser? That's not how I remember King Yu. Zhao Rouge sneered. Ji Qingyu shook his head and no longer paid any attention to Zhao Rouge. He turned around and walked toward a tombstone. It was the tombstone of Emperor Changfeng. It was very simple and was not as magnificent as the tombstone of an emperor. One could even say it was a little shabby. Ji Qingyu lowered his head and hid his face as he slowly swept the fallen leaves. Ji Qingyu, I, Zhao Rouge, have come here today to tell you that you still have a chance. Lianfu is currently in the Imperial City, and this is the best time for you to escape. If you don't want to leave, I, Zhao Rouge, will not say anything. However, if you still feel resentment in your heart, then I, Zhao Rouge, and my father, Zhao Mushing, will provide you with sufficient resources. Zhao Rouge asked, "What's your choice?" A cold wind blew past, blowing away the snow that filled the sky. When the snowflakes landed on Zhao Rouge's face, they were instantly melted by his body temperature. His gaze shifted toward a figure within the Imperial Mausoleum. He believed that Ji Qingyu would not admit defeat just like that. Sure enough, that figure slowly walked out with a broom in his hand. His eyes were still lifeless, but within this lifeless gray color, there was a flame that was reignited by the spring breeze. Zhao Mushing, huh? That old fox is really annoying. Ji Qingyu lifted the broom and broke the velvet rope on his head, causing his hair to immediately spread out. Zhao Rouge looked at him, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. It was late at night. Two bright moons hung high in the sky, reflecting each other's radiance. In a courtyard within the imperial city, Zhao Mushing stood with his hands behind his back. His gaze was gentle and distant, and the energy on his body was fluctuating slightly like flowing water. Suddenly, a figure shrouded in the smell of alcohol landed in the courtyard. Occasionally, one could even hear the sound of drunken burps. Zhao Mushing's brows immediately furrowed as he looked at the figure. Shangda, you drank so much again. Monks are not supposed to drink, but you've gone from bad to worse. Hee. Elder, Shangda knows that you understand. Why can't monks drink? As the saying goes, wine and meat pass through the intestines. What this monk wants is to feel good. Shangda's face was flushed red as he said to Zhao Mushing, his breath reeking of alcohol. All right, no matter how much you drink, as long as you don't cause any trouble, it's fine. Zhao Mushing frowned and sighed. If it were any other monk from the Mayana island who appeared in front of him like this, he would have long given them a slap, but Shangda sighed. Elder, I found out about the matter you asked me to investigate. That owner Boo, he said that he knows this serpent man. Shangda's eyes were blurry from drunkenness, and he couldn't even stand steadily. He leaned against a tree and said, that owner Boo said, so what if we know each other? What should we do? The muscles on Zhao Mushing's face twitched slightly as he chuckled. So what if we know each other? Since we know each other, it'll be easy. Bufong. Oh, Bufong, this old man wants to see if you'll leave me in the lurch. Ha ha ha. Chapter 209. On the long street of the imperial city, in a secluded alley. A gentle light flickered in the pitch-black alley. Blackie was quietly lying in front of Fong Fong's little store, breathing evenly and sleeping soundly. The store's doors were tightly shut. From the kitchen, the crisp and rhythmic sound of a kitchen knife colliding with a chopping board could be heard. Thud, thud, thud. The sound was crisp and pleasant. Bufong's slender fingers were slightly wet as he held the kitchen knife and rhythmically cut the radish on the chopping board. The speed at which the kitchen knife moved was extremely fast, almost dazzling to the eyes. However, Bufong was methodical and his expression did not change. It was obvious that this level of speed was not considered fast for him. Finally, when the last piece of radish was cut, Bufong wrapped his fingers around the handle of the knife and slightly waved it. The kitchen knife began to spin along his fingers like a windmill. Then, Bufong flicked his wrist, and the kitchen knife was perfectly inserted into the knife holder. After stretching his back, Bufong slightly opened his mouth and yawned. He would practice his cutting and carving techniques whenever he was free. As a chef who wanted to stand at the top of the food chain in the fantasy world, he could not slack off in the slightest. He had to earnestly practice the basics of being a chef at all times. Wiping away the water on his hands, Bufong's calm eyes were suddenly filled with excitement. His mind sank into the system. The abrupt mission is completed and the reward has been issued. The reward seems to be dragon blood rice and a 10% increase in true energy cultivation progress. Not bad. Bufong smacked his lips and was somewhat elated. His current cultivation progress was not slow. At least, compared to those who were cultivating, his breakthrough speed was like flying. However, Bufong did not care about his cultivation level because of his battle prowess. The reason he broke through his cultivation level was so that he could have a more stable supply of true energy to cook those true energy dishes. Even though he was currently a 5th grade battle king, his true energy was almost depleted after cooking many true energy dishes. This was very troublesome for him. Moreover, with his current cultivation, he couldn't use the golden dragon bone kitchen knife for too long. If the next time he went to capture ingredients, the golden dragon bone kitchen knife would turn into a black lump kitchen knife due to the lack of true energy halfway. That scene. Bufong felt embarrassed just thinking about it. The system's reward had been released. The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched slightly. Following the system's instructions, he squatted down, opened the cupboard below, and took out a ceramic jar. The jar was a little heavy, which surprised Bufong. It was filled with dragon blood rice. After placing the lid on the table, Bufong opened the lid of the ceramic jar. A slightly pungent aroma of rice wafted out. This aroma was not unpleasant, and it even made one want to take a deep breath. Bufong's eyes lit up when he saw the plump rice in the ceramic jar. The color of the rice was red. At first glance, it looked dark and gloomy. However, after looking at it for a long time, one would notice that the rice seemed to be emitting a bewitching blood-red light. Is this the dragon blood rice? It seems to be something. Bufong pursed his lips, reached out 2 fingers, picked up a grain of rice, and brought it closer to take a closer look. Dragon blood rice, semi-dragon, is made from the blood of a 7th-grade semi-dragon spirit beast. It has been soaked in the blood essence of the semi-dragon and absorbed its blood essence. After growing in a difficult environment, the rice grains are plump, dark red in color, and full of rich essence and spiritual energy. It's a rare ingredient, the system introduced in a serious and solemn voice. After hearing this, Bufong was taken aback. He couldn't help but feel a little regretful. He didn't expect that the dragon blood rice was not watered by the blood of a true dragon, but by the blood of a flood dragon. This made the quality of the rice much lower. However, Bufong didn't dwell too much on it. Currently, the highest ingredient provided by the system was around the 7th grade. Perhaps it was because of his limited strength. When his cultivation base broke through, he might be able to get better ingredients. Bufong rubbed his chin, looking at the jar of dragon blood rice. The system didn't provide the latest recipe for dragon blood rice, so Bufong had to figure out how to cook dragon blood rice by himself. He grabbed a handful of dragon blood rice, and the rice grains slipped through his fingers, falling into the ceramic jar. Feeling the spirit energy and essence energy flowing in his palm, Bufong's mouth twitched, and he had a plan in his mind. There were many ways to cook rice. For example, egg-fried rice was the most basic rice cuisine. Egg-fried rice wasn't difficult, but it wasn't easy either. For many chefs, it was an entry-level dish, and they could learn it in a few days. However, to cook it well, it was very difficult. However, Bufong didn't intend to use dragon blood rice to cook egg-fried rice. It wasn't because egg-fried rice wasn't good, but because Bufong couldn't find an egg worthy of this dragon blood rice. In cooking egg-fried rice, the importance of the rice was self-evident, but the importance of the egg couldn't be neglected either. He first poured out half of the dragon blood rice from the ceramic jar into a porcelain bowl, then poured in the Heaven Mountain spring water that was brimming with spirit energy and began to wash the rice. After digging for a while, the color of the rice gradually seeped out a faint red. Every grain of dragon blood rice was stained with luster, plump and plump. He poured this rice-washing water into the flower pot of the 5 stripes path understanding tree that was working hard to give it some nourishment. Bufong returned to the kitchen, poured the dragon blood rice into a steamer, put into the iron pot on the stove, and began to steam it. During the steaming process, Bufong began to cook other dishes. Taking out a piece of fatty, wandering dragon cow meat, green smoke curled around Bufong's hand, and the dragon bone kitchen knife appeared. With a flourish of the knife, the wandering dragon cow meat was completely diced. He lit the fire, heated the wok, poured in oil, added some seasoning ingredients, and stir-fried for a while. A pungent aroma surged out. Pouring the wandering dragon cow meat into the wok, Bufong suddenly poured out his true energy, covering the iron wok. Then he began to stir-fry. Flames surged up, and with a shake of the wok, oil splashed everywhere. The sound of the spatula colliding with the iron wok reverberated throughout the entire store. Not long after, the rich aroma of beef wafted out, lingering above the entire store. Pouring the thickened sauce into the wok, the ruddy wandering dragon cow meat immediately trembled in the wok, the thick and fragrant sauce bubbling. Covering the wok Bufong allowed the wandering dragon cow meat to simmer for a while. During this time, Bufong found a circular plate and took out a white radish. Twirling the dragon bone kitchen knife in his hand, he waved it at the white radish. Not long after, an exquisite radish flower appeared. For the current Bufong, carving a flower was really not a difficult task. Placing the flower on the plate, Bufong carried the plate to the steamer, which was already emitting a rich aroma of rice. Opening the steamer, steam rose up, and a rich essence, energy, and aroma spread out. Bufong took in a deep breath, a little intoxicated. This rice aroma had a hint of sweet and refreshing sweetness. He scooped up a big spoonful of dragon blood rice and covered the plate. The semicircular dragon blood rice emitted a ruddy luster, full and fragrant, teasing one's taste buds and appetite. Closing the steamer, Bufong returned to the front of the wok. Gurgling sounds continuously came from the wok, and the fragrance of meat continuously seeped out. Stopping the fire, opening the wok, steam surged up like an aroma bomb bursting forth. Inside the wok, the thick sauce slowly flowed along with the bursting bubbles. The sparkling and fragrant wandering dragon cow meat was glistening with a splendor. Bufong skillfully shook the wok, scooped out the wandering dragon cow meat with a ladle, and slowly poured it around the fragrant dragon blood rice. The combination of the two fragrances made it even more difficult for one to control themselves. He scooped out the thick sauce and poured it over the dragon blood rice and the wandering dragon cow meat. The thick sauce flowed steaming hot. Under the light, the thick sauce seemed to be emitting light. The wandering dragon cow meat in the sauce slightly trembled under the heat. The sauce seeped into the cracks of the dragon blood rice and began to loosen the rice, allowing the fragrance contained within to gradually be released. Bufong snapped his fingers, and the corners of his mouth curled up. This simple yet not simple dish was completed. Dragon blood, meat donburi done. Chapter 210. The Imperial Palace, the Main Hall. Ji Qingxue was wearing a dragon robe with his hands clasped behind his back. There was a slight smile on his face as he narrowed his eyes and strolled through the main hall. He was currently in a very good mood. After such a long time, he was finally able to taste Owner Boo's dishes. His appetite was satisfied and his mood was naturally much better. His entire body seemed to be floating as he walked. Many of the eunuchs in the main hall could not help but cover their mouths and chuckle as they watched Ji Qingxue constantly pacing around the main hall. Occasionally, he would even jump in joy. Ji Qingxue was now the emperor. Ever since he ascended to the throne, the impression he gave people was that of an incomparably dignified and energetic appearance. Nowadays, it was rare to see him like this. The eunuchs naturally found it amusing and covered their mouths. After taking a few steps, Ji Qingxue felt that the gazes around him were a little off. He raised his eyebrows and looked around at the group of eunuchs who were covering their mouths and blushing. He was slightly taken aback and realized that his actions just now must have caused these eunuchs to laugh. With a slightly embarrassed expression, Ji Qingxue lightly coughed and sternly said with a straight face, "What are you laughing at? Have you never seen my after-meal exercise?" When the eunuchs heard this, they immediately lowered their heads even more and chuckled one after another. Even Ji Qingxue himself could not help but chuckle. He was indeed in a good mood tonight. Ji Qingxue walked to the front of the dragon throne, lightly fluttering the hem of his dragon robe as he calmly sat down on the throne. Suddenly, from outside the main hall, a figure quickly flew in and knelt in front of Ji Qingxue. Ji Qingxue was slightly taken aback and lightly coughed. Reporting, Your Majesty, there is an incident in the Imperial Mausoleum. Ji Qingyu has been taken away, and his whereabouts are currently unknown. The person kneeling in front of the main hall solemnly reported the incident. What? The joy on Ji Qingxue's face instantly disappeared. Ji Qingyu was banished to the Imperial Mausoleum by Emperor Changfeng. Did he dare to escape without permission? But his cultivation was also sealed, so he should not have the ability to escape at all. At this moment, Lien Fu also walked out from behind the main hall. His face was solemn as he pinched his thumb and middle finger and twisted his waist. I have only been gone for a few days, and King Yu has already been taken away. Could it be that someone planned this? Lien Fu frowned and said. Ji Chengshue's brows were almost knitted into a knot, and he suddenly felt a little annoyed. Ji Chengyu's identity was very sensitive. He had been living well in the Imperial Mausoleum, but because of what happened in the Imperial capital, he brought Lien Fu here. He did not expect such a thing to happen. Leaving the Imperial Mausoleum is the same as disobeying the decree of the late emperor. I originally thought King Yu was already disheartened, but I didn't expect him to still have the courage to leave. The next time I meet King Yu, I will definitely bring him to justice in order to respect the dignity of the late emperor. Lien Fu flicked his sleeves and pinched his thumb and middle finger together. His sharp voice contained a hint of anger. Ji Qingxue lightly sighed. After escaping from the Imperial Mausoleum, could it be that King Yu was planning to make a comeback? There was still a seal placed on his body by Emperor Changfeng in his dragon soul state. An ordinary 7th-grade battle saint would not be able to break it. Without cultivation, what was the use of a mere mortal like him? Ji Qingxue pinched his fingers. His gaze became somewhat indifferent as he softly murmured, Originally, I had spared your life because of Imperial Father. I hoped that you wouldn't do anything foolish. Bu Fong carried the round plate out of the kitchen and placed the dish on the dining table. After washing his hands, he sat down on a chair, full of anticipation. The round plate was rather large and contained the dragon blood rice donburi. The dragon blood meat donburi was made using dragon blood rice and the loin meat of the 7th-grade spirit beast, wandering dragon cow. Just this ingredient alone was enough to make one unable to ignore it. Boiling hot air surged up violently. It was thick and did not disperse, carrying with it a rich aroma of meat and rice. Bu Fong picked up a blue and white porcelain spoon and scooped up a spoonful of dragon blood rice. Each grain of rice was plump and firm. Due to the surging hot air, there seemed to be some water on the surface. TSK, the red rice was extremely eye-catching. Even though this dragon blood rice was grown from being soaked in dragon blood, it did not have the fishy smell of dragon blood. Instead, it had the fragrance of white rice. That kind of fragrance was like milk that slowly flowed into one's heart, causing one's heart to involuntarily feel a little sweetness. After putting this spoonful of dragon blood rice in his mouth, Bu Fong's eyebrows immediately twitched. After chewing lightly, the grains of dragon blood rice in his mouth were clearly separated and chaotically moved between his teeth and tongue. The dragon blood rice was slightly harder than ordinary rice and was more chewy. When it bounced off the walls of one's mouth, it gave one a special feeling. Once it entered Bu Fong's mouth, a rich spiritual essence instantly erupted. It surged up from his mouth and washed over his entire body. Even though this spiritual essence could not compare to the spiritual essence of the black swan boa, it was still not bad. He scooped up another spoonful of soup made from the wandering dragon cow and poured the boiling soup into his mouth. The steaming soup mixed with the dragon blood rice in his mouth. The chewy, wandering dragon cow meat also swam in the soup, causing Bu Fong's entire body to tremble. As he lightly exhaled hot air, Bu Fong's mouth was trembling. It was truly too hot. However, this scalding sensation was the most enjoyable part of eating donburi. The scorching heat in one's mouth made one unable to stop. The rich fragrance spread in one's mouth, and the feeling of wanting to swallow yet not daring to do so was simply exhilarating. At this moment, Bu Fong was experiencing this exhilarating sensation, a mixture of pain and happiness. As he swallowed the steaming soup mixed with the dragon blood rice in his mouth, the soothing sensation caused all the pores on his body to slightly open up. This feels good. Bu Fong lightly exhaled a breath of hot air. The feeling of being relieved of a heavy burden after swallowing a steaming hot donburi was always present. He licked his lips. His tongue was slightly numb from the scalding sensation. Actually, the taste of this wandering dragon cow meat soup would be even better with a little chili, Bu Fong mumbled as he chewed on the porcelain spoon in his mouth. However, Bufong was actually not very fond of chili. Many of the dishes he cooked were not very spicy, but chili was a very good seasoning. In the future, I'll just adjust it according to the taste of the customers. Bufong pursed his lips. He had chili, and the abyssal chili sauce was still stored in his system storage. Without thinking about it, Bufong wholeheartedly began to enjoy the dragon blood donburi. He ate happily, covering his mouth from time to exhale hot air. His appearance was indeed painful and happy at the same time. However, in front of the delicacy, he could not control himself. By the time he finished the entire bowl of donburi, fine beads of sweat had appeared on his forehead. Rubbing his slightly bulging stomach, Bufong curled up on the chair. He was so lazy that he did not want to move at all. After calming down for a while, Bufong finally stood up, cleaned the table, and returned to the kitchen. This could be considered as a new dish, one that Bufong quite liked. Dragon blood donburi was both nutritious and delicious. After tidying up everything, Bufong stretched his back, yawned, and returned upstairs. After taking a comfortable hot bath, he lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he would have a good night's sleep. In the early morning, the morning star leaped out and excitedly emitted a radiance from its body, sprinkling its gentle light over the land. The door of Fong Fong's little store, which was located in the alleyway, was also opened, revealing a sleepy Bufong. His slender fingers were holding onto a porcelain plate, and within the porcelain plate was the fragrant sweet and sour ribs. Placing the sweet and sour ribs in front of Blackie, Bufong rubbed Blackie's head and yawned. He pulled out a chair and curled up on it, feeling the slightly cold air. On both sides of the imperial city's long street, there were already morning market vendors hawking their wares. A group of people dressed in black, carrying a sedan chair, stopped at the entrance of the alleyway. A figure walked toward the sedan chair. This figure's face was covered with a black cloth, and he was dressed in a black warrior's robe. It was obvious that he was trying to hide his identity. However, that shiny head and the few scars on it. Well, if this guy was standing in front of Bufong, Bufong would definitely recognize him. The young monk pulled open the curtain of the sedan chair and single-handedly pulled out a figure. To hell with Zhao Musheng. Instead of letting this little monk have a good night's sleep early in the morning, he actually made this little monk do such a low-level, unskilled thing. The young monk cursed as he took a few steps forward and flung the figure to the ground. He glanced at the figure, stepped on the long and narrow tail of the serpent, bent down, and said, "Serpent man, listen up. If you want to save your companion, then go look for Ownerbu. Don't blame this little monk for not reminding you." I, who was struggling to get up from the ground, angrily glared at the baldy. "Go early, or else you'll have to line up." The young monk rubbed his head and laughed carefreely. He led the sedan chair bearers away. Only the serpent man, was left on the ground, gnashing his teeth in anger. Chapter 211. I curled up his serpent tail and straightened his body. His upper body was covered with hideous wounds. Damn bastards! Ani's eyes were burning with anger, but his heart was filled with sorrow. Only after leaving the illusory spirit swamp did he realize how big this world was. In the Serpent Men tribe, his cultivation level of 6th grade Battle Emperor was already very high. Basically, no one dared to provoke him. He could even easily kill some of the spirit beasts in the vicinity. However, as soon as he stepped into the human kingdom, he was horribly injured. The human world was indeed more terrifying than the illusory spirit swamp. The tribe elder's words were indeed reasonable. The group of people detained Yu Fu and Serpent Man Yu Feng, but left him here. They must be plotting something. Do you want me to go find the senior? This group of people must have set up an ambush. If senior is benevolent enough to save Yu Fu, you will definitely fall into their trap. I can't harm senior. I clenched his fists, and his expression was dark and gloomy. But if he didn't go, Yu Fu and Uncle Yu Feng would be in danger. It was a difficult choice. A serpent man? Suddenly, just as I was hesitating, a puzzled voice rang out from behind him. I was taken aback. He turned around and saw two familiar figures. He clearly remembered these two figures. They were also in the tribe, coming for the Ice Soul Monarch Lotus, although they didn't get it in the end. I thought you guys arrived a long time ago. So you've only just arrived? But why are you alone? If I remember correctly, the person who needs treatment from Ownerbu isn't you. Wu Yunbai, dressed in a white robe, looked at the wounded Ai in amazement and asked calmly. Ani's eyes moved slightly. He wasn't sure if this Wu Yunbai was trustworthy. Let's go. We'll talk in Ownerbu's store. Wu Yunbai saw that Ai seemed to have a lot of difficulties. She frowned and led the way. Master Awu glanced at Ai and walked forward with his head held high. The three of them arrived at Bufong's store. Wu Yunbai had purposely come early today. She was furious that she did not get to taste the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew brewed with lotus seeds. Early in the morning, she dragged Master Awu, who was still snoring away. Bufong was curled up on a chair at the door. When he saw the three of them approaching, his eyes flickered. When he saw the serpent person that he had not seen for a long time, he was immediately astonished. Yesterday, the young monk came to his store and mentioned about the serpent person. Why did the serpent person personally appear today? That novice monk from yesterday was indeed problematic. Ownerbu, do you still remember this Naga? Wu Yunbai arrived at the entrance of the store. She first glanced at the big black dog that was lying at the side, eating the sweet and sour ribs, then said to Bufong. Master Awu's eyes were already glued to the meat. This sweet and sour ribs, which was worth dozens of crystals, was just casually eaten by a dog. What a reckless waste. Blackus stopped chewing on the sweet and sour ribs. It raised its head slightly and glanced at Master Awu, who was staring at it dumbfoundedly. It snorted, turned its body, and aimed its butt at Master Awu. It continued chewing on the meat on the porcelain plate, wagging its tail in a rather adorable manner. Senior, when Ai saw Bufong, his heart was filled with sorrow. Finally, he saw a living human. It had been a month. He came out of the illusory spirit swamp just to see Bufong. Now that he had finally seen him, his heart was filled with mixed feelings. Looking at Ai, who was crying and snot at the same time, Bufong's eyes twitched. Brother, do you have to be so emotional? Come in first, Bufong said. He left the chair and walked into the store. Wu Yunbai took a deep breath and strode into the store. As soon as she stepped into the store, her expression changed slightly. Because the spirit energy in the store had become denser than yesterday, and the mysterious fluctuations were very obvious. It was as if there was a strange path understanding melody ringing in her ears at every moment. This path understanding tree. Wu Yunbai's eyes focused on the 5 stripes path understanding tree in the earthy yellow flower pot in the corner. The leaves on the path understanding tree had become luxuriant, no longer fresh and tender. It was obvious that the path understanding tree was beginning to mature. Master Awu was the most affected. After all, he was a 7th grade battle saint and could clearly sense the path understanding melody emanating from the path understanding tree. At this moment, he seemed to have a feeling that he wanted to sit down and cultivate. After all, it was too difficult to find a mature 5 stripes path understanding tree. Miss, it looks like this path understanding tree is about to mature. Ownerbu's flower pot is strange. It should have the effect of accelerating time. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the path understanding tree to grow so fast. Master Awu solemnly said. As a 7th grade battle saint, he was the clearest about the current situation in the Imperial City. Once the 5 stripes path understanding tree matured, the strange balance that had always existed in the Imperial City would be broken. You two go and see what dishes you want to order. That serpent man, where are the others? Just you alone? Bufong turned around and said. Ani's heart trembled when he heard Bufong's words. He was hesitant because he felt that the Baldy was definitely plotting something. He had asked him to appear here to lure the senior into a trap. He could not harm his senior. Ai struggled in his heart. Say it, don't be afraid. There are many things that I would not agree to under normal circumstances. Just say it. Bufong was calm. He could see the struggle in Ani's eyes, and it was obvious that he had his own difficulties. Would not agree. Wu Yunbai was speechless at Bu Feng's words. Indeed, Owner Bu could be inflexible at times. If he had sold her a cup of frost-blazed path understanding brew yesterday, she would not have needed to come so early today. Serpent Man, on Ni's heart, immediately relaxed. He clenched his teeth and spilled the beans. Wu Yunbai and Master Ah Wu listened with great interest. The adventures of the Serpent Men were really exciting and rich. It was much more interesting than their boring journey. Zhao Musheng. Bu Feng glanced at the Serpent Man and asked calmly. Yes, that damn guy is called Zhao Musheng. He was the one who kidnapped us. I clenched his teeth, full of resentment. Bu Feng thought for a moment and remembered the guy who resisted his divine dragon silhouette in the double calamity dragon head array. He did not expect this guy to come back again, and this time his target was him. Senior, that Zhao Musheng must have dug a trap for you to jump into. Don't put yourself in danger because of us. We will feel bad if you do. From a moral point of view, I really don't want Senior to go rescue them. But Yu Fu and Uncle Yu Feng are my family. Ani's face was full of struggle, and he said a lot. Bu Feng was dumbfounded. He was speechless as he looked at this chattering fellow. He raised his hand and interrupted the incessant I. He said calmly that, let me interrupt a little. I didn't say I was going to rescue them. I was dumbfounded. Wu Yunbai was also stunned. She looked at Bu Feng. I'm only responsible for rescuing your Uncle Yu Feng. As for what happened on the way to the store, it has nothing to do with me, Bu Feng said seriously. Ani's whole body trembled. If Bu Feng did not rescue them, then Yu Fu and Uncle Yu Feng would not be able to be rescued. Just as I was about to say something, footsteps came from outside the alleyway. Another group of people squeezed into the store. Here, as you can see, my store is very busy. Rescuing people. I don't have time. Bu Feng spread out his hands, glanced at I, and then at Wu Yunbai. You can ask her for help. After all, you are all from the illusory spirit swamp. Even though you are from different races, you might have been from the same family thousands of years ago. You were from the same family thousands of years ago. Wu Yunbai did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, Wu Yunbai looked at the despairing I and sighed. Serpent Man, since we are from the same family, since we are more familiar with each other, how about we help you rescue them? But there is a price to pay for us to help. We hope that after we return to the illusory spirit swamp, you can introduce us to the Serpentine Sovereign. Suddenly, Wu Yunbai's eyes shone brightly as she stared at I. Chapter 2:12. Miss, you can't. Master Ah Wu's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when he heard Wu Yunbai's words. Oh my miss, why are you getting involved in this? Now that the imperial capital is in danger, if we end up becoming the bird that sticks out in the eyes of all the battle saints, then that would be terrible. Although the White Cloud Villa is strong, there are only the two of us in the imperial city of the Light Wind Empire. Wu Yunbai acted as if she hadn't heard Master Ah Wu at all. Her eyes were fixed on I. The Serpentine Sovereign, the insufferably arrogant Serpentine Sovereign, the legendary figure who single-handedly led the Serpent Men tribe to establish a vast city that rivaled the White Cloud Villa. Wu Yunbai had grown up reading the Serpentine Sovereign's biographies from the White Cloud Villa. Although she didn't know which generation the current Serpentine Sovereign was, it didn't stop her from looking forward to meeting him. I was dumbfounded. He couldn't wrap his head around the situation. What was up with this human? Why were you so fanatical about the Serpentine Sovereign? Could it be that we really were a family thousands of years ago? I was horrified. I grew up listening to the legends of the Serpentine Sovereign. I just wanted to see what the legendary Serpentine Sovereign looked like. He was actually able to severely injure my insufferably arrogant father, and it took him 3 years to recover. The excitement on Wu Yunbai's face faded. She glanced at I and said calmly, this seems to be turning into a sad story. Is it because the Serpentine Sovereign injured your father that you're fanatical about the Serpentine Sovereign? I felt his brain was in a mess. Just tell me if you want to introduce me. Wu Yunbai crossed her arms and raised her chin. Introduce me. If you can really save Yu Fu and Uncle Yu Feng, I'll beg the great elder to introduce you even if I have to kowtow until my head bleeds. I said through gritted teeth. The Serpent Men tribe had an audience with the Serpentine sovereign once a year. This was a rare opportunity. Then it's a deal. Bai was satisfied. She smiled and snapped her fingers. Master Awu cried behind her. Miss, can we not be so willful? If you want to see the Serpentine sovereign, just go back to the villa and ask the villa lord to bring you there. Owner you should have the Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew today, right? Give me a cup. Bai was very happy now. She waved her hand casually and was very generous. Young mistress, let's think about it, Master Awu said. However, Bai ignored him and looked at Bufong. Bufong expressionlessly nodded, then turned around and stepped into the kitchen. As soon as he entered the kitchen, the sound of footsteps could be heard from outside the door. Several figures squeezed into the store. The first to bear the brunt was the Ouyang family. Evidently, the breakthrough of the 3 barbarians of Ouyang yesterday had shocked them, and they hurriedly rushed over this morning. Ouyang Xiaoyi stuck her head out and looked at the kitchen. At this time, Owner was not in the store, so he could only be in the kitchen. What do you want to order? Let me know now. Ouyang Xiaoyi skillfully started her job of maintaining order in the store. Today, the store's Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew is limited to 5 cups. Bufong's indifferent voice drifted out from the kitchen. Then, Bufong walked out with a white jade wine jar in his arms. His expression was incomparably calm. Even though the crowd was dissatisfied with the reduced quantity of the wine, they did not say anything. This was a wine that could help one achieve a breakthrough. The rarer something is, the greater its value. This was normal. Bufong placed the white jade wine jar on the table and removed the clay seal. There was still about a third of the wine left in the white jade wine jar. A rich wine aroma immediately wafted out from the wine jar, causing everyone to be intoxicated by it. Early in the morning, the fragrance of wine wafted out from the alleyway and lingered around the alleyway. Splash! Bufong used a bamboo tube to scoop up a cup of light green wine. Cloud patterns hovered around the cup, and the rich spirit energy faintly trembled. Here's your Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew. Please enjoy, Bufong said as he handed the cup to the impatient Bai. Bai took the wine, and her eyes could no longer tear away from the wine. She stuck out her tongue and licked her rosy lips. With a gulp, she swallowed a mouthful of saliva and took a sip of the wine. A fiery, spicy taste instantly rushed into her mouth, causing her entire body to tremble. Her eyes brightened as she raised her head and took 3 small gulps. 3 gulping sounds could be heard from her smooth neck as she finished the cup of wine. Bufong timely caught the cup that Bai tossed over in a daze and looked at the latter calmly. Bai's entire face turned pink, and the 2 red streaks on her cheeks made her look even more adorable. With a light burp, Bai staggered a step forward. Her head was spinning, and she fell to the ground with a thud. Miss! Master Awu was shocked and quickly helped Bai up. However, the latter was already dead drunk. A cup of Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew was terrifyingly strong. Passing out after 1 cup was no joke. Owner my apologies. Here are 500 crystals. I'll take my leave first. Master Awu was somewhat speechless. He had just said he was going to save someone, and now he was going to pass out after 1 cup. Miss, are you here to make a joke? Bufong nodded as he accepted the crystals. Master Awu did not say anything. He supported Bai out of the store and called the bewildered I to follow. The 3 of them quickly disappeared from the store. Bufong knocked on the white jade wine jar with a bamboo tube to draw everyone's attention back. He said calmly, "There are 4 cups left." Instantly, everyone's faces lit up with excitement, and the sound of scrambling arose once more. After selling the remaining 4 cups of Frost Blaze Path Understanding brew, Bufong put away the white jade wine jar and carried it back to the kitchen, putting it away. After selling the wine, the store returned to its usual business mode. The Ouyang family members carried Elder Ouyang, who had passed out after 1 cup, out of the store. Xiao Xiaolong also carried Xiao Yu, who was lying on the floor and smacking his lips. Out of the store. What a pity. There's a new dish today. Nobody wants to try it. Bufong muttered to himself as he looked at the departing figures. Io, owner Boo, why has the store been so busy in the mornings lately? We can't even squeeze in if we come early. The pot-bellied Fatty Jean walked in with his army of fatties. Fatty Jean spoke in a carefree manner. It was once again the ordinary and warm business hours. Shall we serve the dishes? Sigh. Wu Yunbai was lying motionlessly on the bed like an octopus. Suddenly, her whole body trembled and she pulled around randomly, messing up the bed sheets. She crawled up from the bed with a pout and a myriad of expressions on her face. She rubbed her aching head and glanced at the darkening night sky outside the window. Her eyes suddenly narrowed. She lightly exhaled a breath that was filled with the strong smell of alcohol. Wu Yunbai was taken aback for a moment and then hurriedly looked within herself. She did not even have time to feel if the frost-blazed path understanding brew brewed with the seeds of the monarch lotus had helped her achieve a breakthrough. Oh my God! Wu Yunbai was dumbfounded. Within her dantian, there was a lake of swirling spiritual energy that was constantly dispersing true energy. If her true energy cyclone was said to be a small pond yesterday, then it had turned into a huge lake today. A cup of wine actually helped her achieve a breakthrough while she was asleep. The true energy cyclone was like a lake, and when it revolved, it set off monstrous waves. This meant that she had stepped into the realm of 7th grade battle saint. Wu Yunbai's eyes slightly widened, and her rosy lips suddenly broke into a smile. She stood where she was, and with a single thought, she felt a gust of air gushing out from beneath her feet. Her whole body slowly rose into the air, treading on the air and taking a few crooked steps. Wu Yunbai was beyond excited. Walking in the air was something only a 7th grade battle saint could achieve. I really did achieve a breakthrough. Furthermore, it was done without a sound. Even though it has a lot to do with my previous accumulation, Owner Boo's wine is really miraculous. I was worried that I would miss the best opportunity to achieve a breakthrough because I was drunk. Who would have thought that I would directly achieve a breakthrough? Wu Yunbai excitedly clenched her small fists and couldn't help but laugh in her heart. She walked out of her room and saw Master Ah Wu sprawled on the side, snoring away without a care for his image. The Serpent Man and I was also squinting with his snake tail coiled. Wu Yunbai saw this scene and narrowed her eyes. A trace of gentleness flashed across her eyes. Then, she opened her mouth and roared. Master Ah Wu! Master Ah Wu was immediately startled. His eyes were still drowsy. The Serpent Man and I also opened his eyes and looked at Wu Yunbai in confusion. Come, let's go save them. This lady's broadsword has long been thirsty for it. Wu Yunbai generously waved her hand, full of heroic spirit. Chapter 2:13. Miss, what did you say? Master Ah Wu's heart skipped a beat. Hearing his miss speak such lofty words in the middle of the night, he could not help but tremble. Wait a minute. Master Ah Wu was about to open his mouth to persuade Wu Yunbai, but his eyes suddenly widened as he stood rooted to the ground. He sensed the surging waves of true energy coming from Wu Yunbai's body in astonishment. This wave of energy made even him a little apprehensive. Miss, you successfully broke through to 7th grade battle saint. At this moment, Master Ah Wu was no longer sleepy. He was extremely energetic, and the light that burst out his eyes was as bright as the stars. Beside him, Serpent Man on Ni's heart also skipped a beat. What? The cross-dressing woman before him broke through to 7th grade battle saint? She was still so young. Wu Yunbai did not look old, only in her 20s, but her cultivation level had already surpassed many of her peers. As expected of the mysterious power of the illusory spirit swamp, the people of the White Cloud Villa. Perhaps they really had a chance to save Yu Fu and Uncle Yu Feng. On Ni's heart, which did not hold much hope, suddenly trembled with hope. The corners of Wu Yunbai's mouth curled up. She could not help but smile as she nodded her head. She activated the true energy within her body. Suddenly, a surging aura and pressure emerged from her body, directly forcing the serpent man, and I, to take several steps back. You really are a 7th grade battle saint. That's great. If the Villa Master knew that you broke through, he would be so happy. Master Awu was so excited that he almost danced with joy. Owner Boo's Frostblaze Path Understanding Brew is indeed good stuff. Not only was the essence of the Ice Soul Monarch Lotus infused into the wine, it was also infused with many precious spirit herbs. That burning sensation was definitely a spirit herb no weaker than the 7th grade Ice Soul Monarch Lotus. There's a reason why a cup of wine is sold for 500 crystals. Wu Yinbai exclaimed. A cup of wine in exchange for the opportunity to break through from Battle Emperor to Battle Saint. Was it worth it? It was absolutely worth it. Let's go, Grandmaster Awu. Let's go and rescue the Serpent Men now. Since we promised them, we have to keep our promise. This dark and windy night is perfect for us to act. I can also take this opportunity to experience the power of a 7th grade Battle Saint. Wu Yinbai couldn't wait to laugh heartily. Master Awu's expression stiffened. To be honest, he was against getting involved in this matter. Even a 7th grade Battle Saint would be in grave danger in the current Imperial City. His objective was to ensure Wu Yunbai's safety. Naturally, he did not wish to participate in such a dangerous affair. However, looking at the determined look on Wu Yunbai's face, he felt a little helpless. He could only follow Wu Yunbai to change into her night suit and prepare to depart. The moon was dark and the wind was strong. The cold wind blew gently, rolling up the light sand on the ground. A figure wrapped in black clothes revealed his bright and clean head. There were several ring scars on his head as he walked on the wall. His speed was extremely fast and almost didn't make any sound. With a somersault, the bald figure landed at the entrance of the alleyway with a gust of wind. Raising his head, the baldy revealed a pair of bright eyes that contained a tinge of greed. He stuck his head out from behind the wall of the alleyway and looked toward the entrance of Fong Fong's little store. There was a plump black dog lying on the ground, snoring loudly. Such a fat dog. It's rare to see such a rare sight in this world. On a dark and windy night for dog slaughter, I'll be able to have a feast tonight. A suppressed chuckle escaped from his mouth. He remembered that the old fox, Zhao Mushing, once told him that there was a terrifying spirit beast in the store. However, he did not know what kind of spirit beast it was. However, he knew that he had to be careful during his dog-catching operation. After all, being noticed by a spirit beast that even Zhao Mushing was wary of was simply a dog of B***. This humble monk is only here to catch a watchdog. That spirit beast shouldn't care too much. Once I catch the dog, I'll immediately run and not look back. It should be fine. The bald man had a perfect plan in his mind. As he thought about the plump black dog, the delicious dog meat he had cooked in the past involuntarily appeared in his mind. Dog meat in a dried pot, dog meat in red braised sauce, dog meat in honey sauce. The more he thought about it, the more impatient he became. This humble monk is known as the Dog Meat Terminator. Big black dog, I'm coming. The baldy let out a soft chuckle as he abruptly tapped the ground with the tip of his foot. Surprisingly, he did not make the slightest sound. He was extremely careful as he did not dare to cause too much of a commotion in case the powerful spirit beast guarding the store noticed him. Da-da-da. The bald man's body was as light as a swallow. As he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, his entire body was actually speeding toward the store at an extremely fast speed. His gaze was fixated on the black dog lying on the ground. That plump black dog was covered in meat. Very good. I don't feel any pressure from Spirit Beast. It seems like that powerful Spirit Beast isn't paying attention to me. The bald man secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had been tensed up the entire time, afraid that the Spirit Beast would lock onto him. The black dog was still lying on the ground with its nose slightly twitching. It was sleeping soundly and did not show any signs of waking up. The bald man softly clicked his tongue in admiration as he stared at the dog in amazement. He waved his hand in the air, and instantly, a dagger emitting an ice-cold glint appeared in his hand. The glow of the dagger was emitting a terrifying radiance in the dark night. Such a fat dog, it would definitely be delicious if I made it into a dried pot of dog meat. The bald man could not help but lick his lips. His eyes narrowed as he fiercely stabbed the dagger toward the big black dog. If he wanted to quietly take away this black dog, he had to be fast, accurate, and ruthless. With a single stab, he would bleed the dog so that it would die before it could even make a sound. He was very familiar with this sort of thing. The place where he stabbed the dagger was the best place to bleed the dog after much research. Gie, an ear-piercing sound that made one's hair stand on end and gave them goosebumps, rang out. The sound was so crisp and clear in the quiet alleyway. The bald man was stunned as he stared at the dagger in disbelief. The dagger had stabbed into the body of the black dog. Not only did it not pierce through the dog's skin and bleed the fat dog, but it instead piled up like a piece of paper. It was as if he had used too much force to stab into a piece of iron and stone. How is this possible? The bald man's eyes narrowed as he put away the broken dagger in his hand. Instead, he took out another dagger that emitted a cold glint and stabbed it toward the black dog. I stab again. Stab your sister. The baldy sat on the ground and looked at the dagger that had been stabbed 3 times and was only left with the handle. A bad premonition suddenly emerged in his heart. He looked at the big black dog that was lying on the ground. The black dog opened its drowsy eyes and slowly turned its head. Its mouth twitched as it looked at the bald man like a human. The bald man's eyes widened, and the big black dog's eyes widened. Damned bald donkey. Why did you come here in the middle of the night to tickle the Lord Go? Is it fun? A gentle male voice rang out. It was calm and heartwarming. However, this voice was like a sudden clap of thunder. In an instant, the baldy was so frightened that his entire body started to tremble. His legs kicked the ground as he retreated far away. His face was as if he had seen a ghost as he stared at the big black dog that was looking at him like a human. This fat dog could speak the human language? Blackie rolled its eyes. Even though it did not know why the bald donkey would come to the alleyway in the middle of the night and stab it with a dagger, and even though the dagger did not hurt, it still disturbed the Lord Go's sleep. This was unforgivable. While the baldy was dumbstruck, Blackie's body, which had been lying on the ground, suddenly stood up. Then, the baldy's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he stared at the plump dog walking toward him with cat-like steps. On the second floor of the store, Bufong was sleeping soundly. He was completely unaware of what had happened in the alleyway. Even if he knew, he would only twitch the corners of his mouth, coming to provoke Blackie in the middle of the night. This bald donkey really had nothing better to do. At the same time, at the entrance of a luxurious courtyard in the Imperial City, 3 figures dressed in nocturnal clothes stood proudly. This is the courtyard? Wu Yunbai could not help but ask as she narrowed her eyes and looked at the luxurious courtyard. The Serpent Man, I nodded. He remembered this place very clearly. Yu Fu and Uncle Yufeng were both imprisoned here. Young miss, this mansion is not ordinary. Are we really going in? Master Ah Wu frowned as he looked at the mansion. He felt a terrifying fluctuation coming from it. It was like a dark and bottomless pit that could devour everything. What are you afraid of? Master Ah Wu, don't forget, I am now a 7th grade battle saint. I can already use the semi-divine tool, the cloud rising sword. Wu Yunbai's eyes shone brightly as she spoke confidently. Master Ah Wu was taken aback for a moment, then felt relieved. The young miss was a woman with a semi-divine tool. Now that she had broken through to 7th grade battle saint, ordinary battle saints were no match for the young miss. Perhaps he really was overthinking things. Let's go to save them, Wu Yunbai said solemnly. Even though they had a trump card, they still had to be cautious. After all, they were in the Imperial City and the storm gathering. The 3 of them moved their true energy slightly, and in the blink of an eye, they sped toward the luxurious mansion. Chapter 214. On the long street of the Imperial City, in a secluded alleyway, in front of Fong Fong's little store, The cold moonlight spilled down from the heavens, shining on a fat black dog that was strutting its enchanting cat-like steps in the alleyway, leaving a long shadow on the ground. Blackie calmly gazed at the bald donkey in front of him, a bald donkey that dared to stab the Lord Go with a dagger. At this moment, Shangda felt as if 10,000 large black dogs were galloping through his mind. The fat dog in front of him actually knew how to speak. What was up with a dog that knew how to talk? Forcefully suppressing the fear in his heart, he crawled up from the ground. His mind raced, and he quickly figured out the situation. A dog that knows how to talk. What the F***CK? Don't tell me this is the terrifying spirit beast that Zhao Mushing mentioned. It was as if a bolt of lightning had flashed through the young monk's heart, instantly illuminating the haze. He looked at the black dog as if he had seen a ghost. The powerful spirit beast that he had been guarding against for half a day turned out to be the target of his sneak attack today. At this moment, Shangda really wanted to curse. His eyes were filled with tears, and his face was filled with grief and indignation. He felt like he had been deeply deceived. How could a powerful spirit beast be a fat dog? How could a fat dog be the powerful spirit beast? Blackie strutted its cat-like steps, the corners of its mouth curled up into a human-like, mocking smile. Shangda's heart palpitated at the sight. He suddenly felt a little regretful. Why did he come looking for trouble with this black dog just to satisfy his momentary desire for good food? From your body, Lord Go, I can feel a killing intent, Blackie calmly said. Its voice was extremely gentle and magnetic. Why would you feel a killing intent toward a dog? Lord Go calmly asked as he stopped his cat-like steps and looked at Shangda. The young monk's eyes widened, then he abruptly slapped his head. Then, under the indifferent gaze of the Lord Go, he abruptly rose from the ground and stomped on the wall, intending to escape into the distance in an instant. Blacka looked at the flustered bald donkey and stuck out its tongue to lick the dainty dog paw that was gently raised. I'm asking you a question. Why are you running? Blackie mumbled to itself. Then its doggy paw suddenly swung toward Shangda's back. There was only one thought in Shangda's mind right now, and that was to run. It was as though his heart was overturning the seas. Although he couldn't sense any spiritual energy fluctuations from the fat dog, he couldn't summon the slightest desire to resist when he looked at it. That feeling was the same as when he faced the 8th grade spirit beast in the endless desert. At that time, he was only a 5th grade battle king. Facing an 8th grade spirit beast was the same as now. Oh, that 8th grade spirit beast could speak as well. What the hell? When encountering a talking spirit beast, there was only one thing to do. Run. Bang. The moment the word run appeared in Shami's mind, a frightening pressure surged from behind him. Shami's body stiffened and he was slammed to the ground, unable to move. Tell me, why did I use a dagger to stab you? Lord Go, in the middle of the night. Blackie raised its dainty dog paw and muttered. The young monk's face was filled with fear. It was as if all the muscles in his body were shackled by frightening shackles, rendering him unable to move at all. This feeling of threat was even more frightening than the one he felt when facing the 8th grade spirit beast. What the hell, this dog? Lord Go has a feeling that you, bald donkey, are up to no good. Why don't you tell me? Or else this will be your fate. Lord Go said. Crack. The young monk was sprawled on the ground, cold sweat pouring out of his body. His pupils suddenly constricted as he saw the floor tile near his head shatter into pieces. A small dog paw print appeared on it. Lord Go, brother dog, I say, you have to be magnanimous. The young monk was on the verge of tears. How could he bully someone like this? Blackish snorted and rolled its eyes. What a cowardly bald donkey. I came here late at night because I admire your mighty and majestic figure, Lord Go, so I wanted to— The young monk Shangda's head was covered in cold sweat. Should he speak or not? So what do you want? Lord Go glared at him and asked. So I wanted to borrow a piece of dog meat and have a taste. The young monk's heart trembled, and he immediately spat out the words he was hesitating about. His mouth twitched, and his heart trembled. Damn it! Sure enough, in the next moment, a terrifying pressure surged out from behind him. Are you saying that you want to eat dog meat? Boom! As if a terrifying beast had awakened from its slumber, the oppressive energy instantly enveloped the entire imperial city. At this moment, the entire imperial city was in an uproar. All the battle saints who were sleeping soundly were so scared that they almost peed their pants. They suddenly opened their eyes and rushed out of their rooms. Their hearts trembled as they felt the terrifying aura that enveloped the entire imperial city. This aura was too majestic. At this moment, no matter which battle saint it was, they were all trembling. In the end, Yin opened her eyes. With a slight twist of her slender figure, she rose into the air and dashed out of the room. A delicate figure followed behind her. Sister Yin, this aura, could it be an 8th grade spirit beast? Xiling didn't know when, but she had already retrieved the longbow that she had been carrying on her back. She gripped it tightly, her palms filled with sweat. No, this aura is a little strange. It seems to be even more vigorous than an 8th grade spirit beast, and Yin frowned. She felt that this aura was somewhat familiar, as if she had sensed it somewhere before. No matter what, the imperial city is about to fall into chaos. Yin murmured, "Miss, do we still make a move?" Master Awu's body trembled. Sensing the aura, his face turned ugly. There was actually such a terrifying existence in the imperial city. This aura was no weaker than that of the Manor Lord. Since when did the Light Wind Imperial City have such a deep foundation? No, while they're all stunned by this aura, let's make a move and rescue them. Wu Yunbai clenched her teeth and said. Master Awu's face froze. All right, it seemed like they had to make a move. They left the serpent man and I at the door to act as backup. With a leap, the two of them flipped over the wall and entered. The young monk was trembling all over. I said I wouldn't say it. Look at you. You're so angry just because I said it. The young monk's heart was filled with bitterness. He really just wanted to catch a fat dog and eat its meat. Who would have thought that a fat dog that was almost the size of a pig would be such a terrifying existence, hidden in the shadows? Eat dog meat. Who gave you the guts to eat dog meat? Blackie was enraged. Its fur was glowing brightly. Boom, boom. The bricks on the ground couldn't withstand its aura and crumbled into pieces. Lord Go, let's talk this out. A burst of light burst forth, and the Buddhist aura enveloped the young monk. He actually broke through Blackie's pressure and leaped up. A faint image of a giant Buddha appeared around him. Bang! However, before he could say anything else, a monstrous dog pawed viciously smashed into him. The Buddhist aura shattered like fragile glass. The young monk shot out like a shooting star. His body was almost scorched in midair. His night clothes were torn, and the skin on his body was torn. His entire body looked like it was squashed flat as he spat out blood. Boom, boom. A loud sound came from the imperial city in the dark night. Terrifying waves of energy spread out before everything returned to normal. The city walls at the edge of the imperial city were deeply caved in. A huge pit appeared, and bricks fell from it. A figure struggled out with great difficulty. His entire body was dripping with blood as he stood up shakily. From his chest, a broken Buddhist sarira fell out. That damn fat dog. Cough, cough, what bad luck. The young monk Shangda was completely covered in blood. He was frightened out of his wits. If not for that precious Buddhist sarira blocking most of the attack for him, he would have been turned into minced meat by now. After eating dog meat all day, he was finally beaten by a dog. He reaped what he sowed. Dragging his broken body, the young monk's heart was filled with sorrow as he walked toward Zhao Muxing's mansion. The black puppy was fuming with white smoke from its nose. It only shook its head after the young monk was out of sight. With a snort, it laid down by the door again. Upstairs, Bufong leaned against the window and helplessly curled his lips as he looked at the shattered ground of the alleyway. I told you to be gentle. Be careful of the floor tiles. You broke them again. It seemed like he would have to call someone to repair it tomorrow. Bufong sighed. He closed the window, climbed into bed, and went back to sleep. Tonight, all the battle saints in the Imperial City would have insomnia. Chapter 215. A gorgeous courtyard, pavilions, and the winding goblets. The sound of flowing water reverberated from the artificial mountains. Moonlight shone down from the night sky and illuminated the entire courtyard. It reflected the flowing water in the courtyard and sparkled like stars in the sky. Two silhouettes gently landed on the ground without making a sound. Master Awu followed behind Wu Yunbai with a solemn expression. This courtyard was the courtyard where the serpent men were being held captive, which was also where Zhao Mushing was staying. Mississippi, be careful. Since Zhao Mushing insisted on bringing Onerbu here, he must have set up a trap or ambush here, Master Awu cautiously said. Wu Yunbai nodded. She had thought of this as well. Zhao Mushing would not be unprepared in order to deal with Onerbu. The courtyard was eerie and quiet. Only the sound of flowing water could be heard, bringing with it a chilling atmosphere. Let's go. Let's find the place where the serpent men are imprisoned, Wu Yunbai said. The two of them stealthily moved forward. Inside a room in the courtyard, Zhao Mushing stood with his hands behind his back. On the table beside him, a steaming teacup was placed. The aroma of tea permeated the room. Suddenly, the corner of his mouth curled up. He raised the teacup, drank it in one gulp, narrowed his eyes, and slowly left the room. As he walked out of the room, the slight chill in the air made him exhale a breath of hot air. Surging spiritual will surged out. With one step, he leaped into the air. Within the courtyard, the roar of a beast was suddenly heard. The roar was deafening, threatening to overturn the entire courtyard. Maniacal laughter resounded in the courtyard. Boom, boom. The collision of true energy caused a violent shockwave. The courtyard suddenly turned into a terrifying battlefield. Zhao Mushing curled up the corner of his mouth. Finally, they took the bait. Stepping into the air, he came to the top of the courtyard. Below him, a chaotic battle had broken out. Several figures were surrounding two figures. It's not Bufong? Zhao Mushing was slightly stunned. He realized that the one surrounded by a group of experts was not Bufong. Zhao Mushing. Are these two guys our targets this time? He thought. Can we really get the 5 stripes path understanding tree by capturing them? A tyrannical voice rang out. On top of a ferocious black panther sat a muscular, bare-chested man. The burly man laughed loudly at Zhao Mushing, who was floating in the air. Surrounding the burly man were 3 other experts who were also controlling spirit beasts. These people surrounded Wu Yunbai and Master Awu. Master Awu grabbed a serpent man with one hand, his face pale and solemn. Sure enough, Zhao Mushing had set up an ambush, but he did not expect it to be this terrifying. 4 7th-grade battle saints and 2 6th-grade spirit beasts. This lineup was truly invincible within the Imperial City. He did not expect Zhao Mushing to think so highly of Onerbu that he would set up so many experts to ambush a mere 5th-grade battle king. Wu Yunbai's body was surging with true energy as she stood solemnly in the middle of the encirclement. Someone from the 3 godly temples of the Wildlands? A mighty expert from the 3 godly temples of the Wildlands actually colluded with a mere Mahayana island. You guys are really shameless, Wu Yunbai said coldly. Wu Yunbai was no stranger to the 3 godly temples of the Wildlands, because it was also a major force comparable to the White Cloud Villa. However, the two were located in different locations. The White Cloud Villa was located in the illusory Spirit Swamp, while the 3 godly temples of the Wildlands were located in the heart of the Wildlands. However, only the 3 godly temples of the Wildlands could mobilize so many battle saints. A mere Buddhist sect of the Mahayana Island would not be able to mobilize so many battle saints. Yo, a Shao Bai like you knows about the godly temples of the Wildlands? Looks like you have quite a background. The burly man sitting on top of the panther sneered at Wu Yunbai. Zhao Mushing landed on top of a rockery, frowning at Wu Yunbai and Master Awu. Why are you the rescuers? Where's Bufong? Wu Yunbai only glanced at Zhao Mushing without saying a word. Forget it. Since you guys are risking your lives for Bufong, I'm afraid your relationship with Bufong is not simple. Capturing you guys to negotiate with Bufong is the same, Zhao Mushing said calmly, then looked at the battle saints below. Capturing them will give you the opportunity to exchange for the 5 stripes path understanding tree. Everyone for the 5 stripes path understanding tree. What are you waiting for? Hee hee, Zhao Mushing. I hope you guys are not lying to me, or else you will regret it. The burly man glanced at Zhao Mushing, sneered, and then whistled. Suddenly, the panther he was riding burst forth. Rumble. Within the imperial city, the sound of explosions reverberated incessantly. Terrifying gusts of wind howled, threatening to engulf everything. A figure dashed out, carrying a serpent man in each hand. He landed outside the courtyard. I, who was waiting outside the courtyard, suddenly paled. Go. Let's go first. Miss is covering our retreat. Let's go. Master Ah Wu said coldly, his face as gloomy as water. Ani's heart skipped a beat. Without a word, he summoned his true energy and followed Master Ah Wu. The sound of explosions continued to reverberate in the courtyard, accompanied by sharp sword beams. The shockwaves of the battle had long been transmitted to the entire imperial city. Many battle saints quietly released their consciousness, paying attention to the earth-shattering battle in the courtyard. A figure dressed in a fiery red robe swayed in the air. He rubbed his slender fingers, calmly observing the battle in the courtyard. Mu Sheng, that idiot, stirring up such a commotion at this time. Isn't he just foolishly sticking his head out? The terrifying aura of a suspected 8th-grade spirit beast has just dissipated, and you're already stirring up trouble with such great fanfare. Mu Lingfeng curled his lips and said disdainfully. The store with the path understanding tree was suspected to be guarded by an 8th-grade spirit beast. This was not good news for him. An 8th-grade spirit beast was very strong, and with such a spirit beast around, he would have to pay a hefty price to obtain the 5 stripes path understanding tree. Looks like I'll have to ask the elder for help. I must obtain the 5 stripes path understanding tree. Mu Lingfeng's eyes narrowed. With a flick of his fingers, a fiery red bird appeared in his hand. After muttering a few words, the bird chirped, flapped its wings, and flew away. When the elder reaches the imperial city, the 5 stripes path understanding tree should be ripe and bearing fruit. When that time comes, it's time to make our move. Mu Lingfeng took a deep breath, took one last look at the battle below, and silently cursed at the idiot before drifting away. Wu Yunbai's mouth was dripping with blood. Her chest was heaving, and the arm holding the cloud rising sword was trembling. Although she had the cloud rising sword, it was still very taxing for her to fight against so many experts alone. Fortunately, she still had the jade talisman from the White Cloud Villa. Using it, she was able to escape. Otherwise, she might have really died there. After all, the experts from the 3 godly temples of the Wildlands were no pushovers. Clutching the semi-divine weapon cloud, rising sword, Wu Yunbai pressed on her wound and sped away. Suddenly, her face froze as she looked into the distance. Over there, a ragged and miserable bald man was dragging his heavily injured body towards her. Why would a beggar be wandering around the imperial city in the middle of the night? Wu Yunbai swallowed the blood in her mouth and cast a doubtful glance at the miserable bald man. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed as she recognized the man. It's you. Wu Yunbai naturally recognized the bald Shangda. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Wasn't this bald man the guy who had been a messenger for Zhao Mushing? The bald Shangda was currently in a state of confusion. For the sake of eating dog meat, he was almost slapped to death by a dog. He was so unlucky that just as he struggled his way to Zhao Mushing's residence, he ran into a sword-wielding Xiao Bai who was glaring at him with a murderous expression. What had he done to deserve this? Damn bald donkey! Go to hell! Wu Yunbai bellowed. The cloud-rising sword wrapped in a fierce sword light slashed at the bald Shangda. With a splat, blood splattered everywhere. The bald Shangda was sent flying with a look of despair as blood splattered everywhere. Wu Yunbai pressed on her wound. Sensing the sound of something piercing through the air behind her, She glanced at the bald donkey on the ground and snorted. Then, she sped away and disappeared into the night. The wind was howling, and it was miserable. With tears in his eyes, the bald Shangda gazed at the two bright moons in the night sky. He swore that he would never eat dog meat again. Early in the morning, the first ray of sunlight shone through the window on a Bufong's face, causing the sleeping Bufong to wrinkle his nose and open his eyes. It was another beautiful day. Bufong got out of bed, washed up, and went to the kitchen to begin his daily knife and carving training. After completing his training, Bufong cooked a portion of sweet and sour ribs, carried it out of the store, and placed it in front of Blackie. "Blackie, it's time to eat," Bufong called out softly. However, he was a little surprised because Blackie, who was usually excited at the sight of sweet and sour ribs, just lazily glanced at it this morning and walked over with a face full of smugness. It seemed that this fat dog was still depressed about last night's incident. Bufong was a little curious. What on earth did that guy do last night to make Blackie so unhappy until now? But since Blackie did not say, he naturally could not figure it out. Walking back into the store, a faint fragrance wafted through the air. Bufong gazed at the five stripes path understanding tree in the corner, his face revealing a look of surprise. There were actually 3 round and adorable little green fruits emerging from the path understanding tree. The fragrance was emanating from these fruits. The five stripes path understanding tree was actually starting to bear fruit. Chapter 2:16. Bufong raised his eyebrows and slowly walked to the front of the five stripes path understanding tree. A fragrant aroma assailed his nostrils, bringing with it an aura that could clear one's mind. The leaves of the path understanding tree rustled and rustled. The veins on the tree seemed to come alive. Each vein was so conspicuous. Between the lush green leaves, 3 perfectly round green fruits were faintly discernible. The fruits were not big and were a little green. Faint cloud patterns floated on the surface, giving some resemblance to the 3 stripes path understanding fruit. Reaching out his hand, Bufong's slender fingers gently stroked the fruit. A faint spirit energy rippled out, bringing with it an icy cold aura that spread from his fingers to his entire body. It made Bufong feel a little refreshed. Looks like it's really going to mature. Bufong's mouth twitched, feeling a little delighted. From a seed germinating to a fruit, Bufong could be said to have watched this five stripes path understanding tree grow up. His heart was somewhat touched. Letting out a light breath, Bufong stood up, took a serious look at the five stripes path understanding tree, then turned around and entered the kitchen. The store began its business as usual. The aroma of the dishes lingered in the store, causing the diners to squint their eyes in intoxication. Ouyang Xiaoyi skipped over. She was already used to coming to the store to work every day. She felt that it was much better than staying at home and cultivating mindlessly. Although she came to help out every day, she did not neglect her cultivation. The cultivation atmosphere in the store was excellent. With the existence of the five stripes path understanding tree, the path understanding tone emitted every day was a great addition to cultivation. "Xiaoyi, serve the dishes." Bufong's faint voice drifted out from the kitchen. Ouyang Xiaoyi came to the window and carried away the egg-fried rice that was exuding a rich and mesmerizing aroma. After working as a waitress for so long, she had long become immune to the aroma of dishes. Although she would occasionally succumb to the aroma, she was much better than most people. This was also one of the difficulties that waitresses in the store had to overcome. After placing the egg-fried rice in front of a customer, Ouyang Xiaoyi smiled and took a few steps back. Suddenly, she turned her head to look outside the door and saw several figures walking in. "Where's Ownerbu? Quick, call Ownerbu out." Wu Yunbai, whose face was as pale as a thin sheet of paper, walked in. Behind her was a worried Master Awu. I and Yu Fu were behind them, supporting an unconscious serpent person. Ouyang Xiaoyi looked at the serpent man curiously. She was quite curious about this strange race. "You guys wait, the smelly boss is in the kitchen," Ouyang Xiaoyi said. After spending so much time with Owner Bu, Ouyang Xiaoyi's words had become somewhat concise and comprehensive. Master Awu, don't worry. Let's find a place to sit down first. Wu Yunbai's voice was a little weak. Her pretty face was deathly pale, and her lips were completely drained of blood. Master Awu nodded and pulled out a chair for Wu Yunbai. Yufu looked at the interior of the store with some fear. Was this senior store? After so many trials and tribulations, they had finally arrived. Yufu's charming face was covered with scars. Many of the scales on her serpent tail were torn open and covered in wounds. After a long while, Bufang wiped off the water stains on his hands and walked out of the kitchen. He saw Wu Yunbai and the others and nodded at them. His gaze fell on serpent person Yufu, then looked at the unconscious serpent person Yufeng and slightly furrowed his brows. That serpent person Yufeng's breath was even weaker than before. It was obvious that he had suffered serious injuries during the process. You're hurt. Bufang's gaze finally fell on Wu Yunbai. He looked at her and asked calmly, just a small injury. It's nothing serious. Wu Yunbai's face was deathly pale, but she still forced herself to say that. Owner Bu, I knew that Zhao Mushing was up to no good. He insisted that you go there with the goal of killing you. If it was Owner Bu yesterday, I'm afraid he would have died many times over. Fortunately, the young miss broke through to 7th grade battle saint yesterday. Otherwise, I'm afraid it would have been a disaster, Master Awu said indignantly. This Zhao Mushing was really despicable. He actually joined forces with the people from the Shrine of the Wildlands. If the Manor Master was here, given Zhao Mushing's guts, he would have been slapped to death by the Manor Master. However, when Wu Yunbai was injured, Master Awu used a runic array to send a secret message back to the manor. The manor had already dispatched one of the 4 great commanders, Commander Zhang Kong. When the time came, this Zhao Mushing would still be slapped to death. Zhang Kong was an 8th grade war god. Oh, then you guys are in luck. Bufang was not too surprised by Master Awu's words. Zhao Mushing dared to mess with him, so he must have made ample preparations. After all, he, Zhao Mushing, had suffered a loss at his hands last time. However, he was quite curious about what the Shrine of the Wildlands was. Since you're injured, I recommend you try the store's new dish. Perhaps it will help with your injuries, Bufang said seriously as he looked at Wu Yunbai. Wu Yunbai was taken aback. Her injuries were so severe that ordinary elixirs would not be effective. Could it be that a dish would help? However, when she thought of Bufang's specialty, elixir cuisine, her eyes suddenly lit up. That's right. The chef in front of her was not an ordinary chef. Perhaps there really was a way. A new dish. Wu Yunbai immediately looked at the menu behind her with anticipation. After scanning through it once, her gaze locked onto the newest dish that had appeared. Dragon blood meat donburi? Wu Yunbai was slightly taken aback. The name of this dish was a novelty to her. 200 crystals per serving. That's quite expensive. Wu Yunbai gasped and said, The taste is not bad, and it should have some effect on the recovery of your injuries, Bufang said seriously. Then give me 1 serving. Crystals are not a problem. It's more important to heal Mrs. Injuries. Before Wu Yunbai could speak, Master Awu urged impatiently. Bufang nodded, turned around, and headed for the kitchen. When he passed by the cowering serpent woman Yufu, he paused and said, You guys wait for the opening hours to end. And I wanted to say something, but stopped. Looking at Bufang's back as he entered the kitchen, he could not say anything. Back in the kitchen, Bufang took out the dragon blood rice from the clay pot. After washing it, he gave the rice washing water to Xiaoyi for her to fertilize the 5 stripes path understanding tree. After putting the dragon blood rice into the steamer, Bufang began to make the beef donburi. He took out the tenderloin of the wandering dragon cow and twirled the kitchen knife in his hand. When Bufang walked out of the kitchen with the dragon blood meat donburi, the aroma of donburi and dragon blood rice permeated the air, causing everyone to take a deep breath. Here's your dragon blood meat donburi. Please enjoy. Bufang placed the dish in front of Wu Yunbai and said. Wu Yunbai's eyes sparkled as she looked at the donburi. But soon, her eyes revealed a trace of disappointment, because this donburi was not the elixir cuisine she had imagined. If it was not an elixir cuisine, would it still have the same effect? Wu Yunbai did not know, but she still scooped a spoonful of dragon blood rice in her mouth under the envious gazes of the surrounding people. Huh, fragrant. This was the first impression that this donburi left on her. The scalding heat in her mouth, accompanied by the rich aroma, instantly covered her tongue, causing her taste buds to go slightly numb. The dragon blood rice was chewy, and the donburi was even more fragrant. The beef in the donburi was from an unknown spirit beast, but brought a wonderful texture to the mouth. After chewing for a while, Wu Yunbai's pale face returned to a rosy color. It was unknown whether it was because of the rising heat or because of her recovery from her injuries. Wu Yunbai stretched her fair neck and swallowed the rice in her mouth. In the next moment, her eyes lit up. Following that, the spoon in her hand did not stop moving. She kept scooping rice in her mouth, Bu Fong was very satisfied with Wu Yunbai's table manners. When it came to delicacies, one should eat without restraint. That kind of unrestrained taste was the true respect for delicacies. If one ate with restraint, it could only mean that one's dishes were not delicious enough. Wu Yunbai's eyes widened as she continued to eat. As the dragon blood rice entered her stomach, she could feel a scorching sensation circulating in her lower abdomen. Her dantian seemed to have turned into a furnace. Surging spirit energy and majestic essence energy gushed out and covered her entire body in an instant. At this moment, her heavily injured body also regained its strength. Circulating her cultivation technique, she naturally converted the spirit energy into true energy to nourish her body and meridians. The essence energy converged at her wounds, constantly mending them. Her originally serious injuries were actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Wu Yunbai was amazed and amazed. She did not expect that this bowl of dragon blood donburi would actually have the effect of healing her injuries. It was simply godly. Chapter 217. The bowl of donburi was quickly devoured by Wu Yunbai. Not even a single grain of rice was left on the flat, round bowl. After Wu Yunbai finished eating, her originally pale face became rosy, as if there was a rich essence circulating on it. With a burp, spiritual energy dispersed from her body. Feeling as if there were flames burning in her dantian, Wu Yunbai's face gradually revealed a hint of joy. Honorbu was indeed Honorbu. With the help of a bowl of dragon blood meat donburi, her injuries had greatly improved. Even though she had not fully recovered, she was much better than before. Honorbu, this beef seems a little strange. Why does it contain such a rich spiritual energy? The rice is also very special. It's chewy in the mouth, but after swallowing it, it's like eating a great tonic, overflowing with spiritual energy. Wu Yunbai clicked her tongue in wonder. After hearing Wu Yunbai's evaluation, the corner of Bu Fong's mouth slightly twitched. This was dragon blood rice. Although it was just an ordinary dragon blood rice watered with the blood of a flood dragon, it was definitely much better than ordinary rice. Even some spirit rice could not compare. Not only was dragon blood rice a delicious ingredient, but it was also a medicinal ingredient. As for the beef, there was no need to mention it. The beef of the 7th rank wandering dragon cow was definitely filled with spiritual energy. Bu Fong had already tested its taste, and it was excellent. When these two ingredients were mixed together, the dish would naturally be unparalleled in deliciousness. At this moment, Wu Yunbai's body contained a surge of spirit energy and essence energy. She needed to find a place to cultivate and digest all of this energy. Only then could her injuries recover a little. Therefore, both Master Ah Wu and Wu Yunbai bid farewell to Bu Fong. Before she left, Wu Yunbai glanced at I with a profound look in her eyes and said, "I hope you won't forget what you promised me." I nodded and bowed respectfully to Wu Yunbai, expressing his gratitude for her help. Wu Yunbai did not say anything. She left Bu Fong's store with Master Ah Wu. "Owner Bu, is it time to start treating my Uncle Yu Feng?" I asked anxiously. Yu Fu was also looking at Bu Fong with excitement and anticipation. However, Bufong merely glanced at the three of them indifferently and said, "Don't be in such a hurry. I said that I would cook an elixir cuisine to save him after business hours. Naturally, I won't go back on my word. Just wait patiently, don't rush me." Bufong was incomparably calm. After saying that, he returned to the kitchen. Ouyang Xiaoi blinked her eyes and moved closer to the five stripes path understanding tree. She found a comfortable spot and sat down. Although she was not cultivating, the aroma of the path understanding tree was beneficial to her cultivation. The opening hours of the day passed quickly. During this time, some acquaintances came to the store and left after eating. They also took the opportunity to observe the growth of the five stripes path understanding tree. When two blurry crescent moons appeared in the darkened sky, Bufong had ended its business hours for the day. He walked out of the kitchen, wiped off the water stains on his hands, and came to the small spot. He pulled out a chair and sat down. He looked at Serpent Man Yu Fu and the other two calmly. He had gone to the illusory spirit swamp to retrieve the seeds of the Ice Soul Monarch Lotus. The Ice Soul Monarch Lotus was originally a heavenly treasure belonging to the Serpent Men tribe. Since Bufong had taken it, he naturally had to show some appreciation. This was also the reason why he had helped to save the Serpent Man Yu Fu. In fact, this could be considered a kind of equivalent exchange. Back then, due to the harsh conditions, the wandering dragon beef porridge that Bufong brewed could only alleviate the injuries of the Serpent Man Yu Fu. Now that they had come to the Imperial City, and Bufong had promised to brew elixir cuisine to save him, he would naturally do his best. He sat down on the chair unhurriedly and conversed with the Serpent Man, and I. After cooking for a day, Bufong also wanted to relax. However, and Yu Fu were incomparably anxious. They couldn't wait for Bufong to start cooking the elixir cuisine immediately. Finally, Bufong, who had rested enough, stood up. Under the hopeful gazes of and Yu Fu, he walked into the kitchen to prepare the elixir cuisine. Last time in the Serpent Men tribe, he had used the most primitive kitchen utensils to brew the wandering dragon beef porridge. The effects were extremely poor, and the healing effects were less than 10%. Now that he had the kitchen equipment of the store, he could naturally brew the real elixir cuisine. Blood Crown Wandering Dragon Beef Porridge? I need to make some changes. Bufong stood in front of the kitchen counter, narrowing his eyes as he pondered. First, he took out the huge blood crown he had cut off from the head of the 7th grade black swamp boa from the system's dimensional storage. The blood crown was the essence of the black swamp boa, and it was the main ingredient of this elixir cuisine. If I use dragon blood rice and the blood crown, the effects of this elixir cuisine should be even better. Bufong rubbed his chin and pondered. The more he thought about it, the more his eyes lit up. He felt that this improvement should be even better. Green smoke curled up from his hand, and the golden dragon bone kitchen knife appeared. With a flick of the knife, he cut off a piece of the huge blood crown. The golden dragon bone kitchen knife was necessary to cut off the blood crown. If an ordinary kitchen knife was used to cut off the blood crown, it would not be able to seal the opening of the blood crown, and the spirit energy would leak out rapidly. When that happened, the blood crown would become useless. The advantage of the golden dragon bone kitchen knife was that after cutting off ingredients with spirit energy, it would ensure that the spirit energy of the ingredients would not leak out and would be sealed within the ingredients. This was extremely important when cooking elixir cuisine. Bufong took out some dragon blood rice. It was not a lot, just less than half of the rice used to make the meat vegetable rice. He took out a clay pot from the cupboard, washed the dragon blood rice, and poured in a lot of alpine spirit spring water provided by the system. The diced blood crown was also thrown into the clay pot. Bufong took out the wandering dragon beef. This time, he took the thigh meat of the wandering dragon cow. Under the cutting of the golden dragon bone kitchen knife, the spirit energy was perfectly preserved. After putting all the ingredients in the clay pot, Bufong turned on the stove and started to slowly cook it. He covered the lid of the clay pot with one hand, and true energy slowly flowed out from his arm and into the clay pot. Elixir Cuisine tested the chef's control of true energy as well as his familiarity with the mixing effects of each ingredient in the dish. Thus, cooking elixir cuisine was an extremely difficult and exhausting task for many chefs. Even for Bufong, if he wanted to cook an elixir cuisine, he would have to expend a lot of energy and true energy. This was especially true for the blood-crowned beef dragon rice congee this time. Because the ingredients used were not ordinary, the reaction of spirit energy between the ingredients was more complicated and detailed. The chef's control of true energy was higher, and the difficulty was higher. For almost an hour, Bufong maintained the output of true energy. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead, and his brows were tightly furrowed. He did not dare to slack off in the slightest. Bufong was very serious about his culinary skills. He hoped to cook every dish to the best. Thus, every time he cooked a dish, he would put his heart and soul into it. He did his best so that his dish would not be a disgrace to his skills. The rich aroma of porridge slowly floated out. This aroma was very thin, like a very thin thread. It entered one's nostrils and was as smooth as a thread. This is the fragrance. Although it is a little different from the last time, this is the same smell. I remember it very clearly. Yu Fu smelled the fragrance wafting out from the kitchen, and she instantly became excited. She pinched Ani's arm and said continuously. Ai nodded his head with a bitter smile. However, at the same time, his heart was also very excited. That fragrance was brewing, and when it reached a deep level, it burst forth, intoxicating people. When a thin figure appeared in the shadow of Bufong's kitchen, I and Yu Fu could not help but straighten their bodies. Bufong carried a clay pot, and the pot was steaming. The steam was accompanied by a silky fragrance. Gulp, gulp. He placed a clay pot on the table. The blood-colored rice porridge was still boiling, and every time a bubble popped, a fragrance would emerge. Blood-crowned beef dragon rice porridge. This time, it should be enough to cure your father. You can feed it to him. Bufong rubbed his slightly stiff fingers and said to Yu Fu. Yu Fu nodded her head excitedly. She walked in front of the clay pot and looked at the boiling rice porridge in the pot. She bit her lips. She took a small celadone bowl and scooped a spoonful of steaming rice porridge from the clay pot. The spirit energy on the rice porridge seemed to be manifesting, and it was as if there was a long and narrow snake roaring. This. Yu Fu was almost incoherent. Spirit energy turning into a strange phenomenon was simply terrifying. If nothing goes wrong, this elixir cuisine should be able to cure him. Bufong nodded his head lightly. He looked at the excited Yu Fu seriously, and his gaze softened a little. Chapter 2:18. Yu Fu scooped a bowl of piping hot dragon blood rice porridge. The surging essence energy gathered and rolled around the mouth of the celadone bowl. Using a porcelain spoon to scoop a spoonful, Yu Fu carefully blew on it. The dragon-like essence energy was blown away and dispersed, bringing with it a rich fragrance. This dragon blood rice porridge was not a sweet porridge. Due to the addition of some wandering dragon beef, it had a slightly salty taste. The essence energy that blew over also carried a faint salty aroma. The slightly blood-red porridge was fed into the mouth of the unconscious snake man Yu Fu. After 2 small bowls, his complexion began to visibly change. From its initial pale and bloodless appearance to a slightly rosy complexion. The effect this time was even more prominent than the last. After the serpent man Yu Fu ate his 3rd bowl, he suddenly opened his eyes. Essence energy seemed to be circulating in his pupils. A surging wave of energy was released from his body, blowing away Yu Fu, who was about to feed him another mouthful. Buzz! The wave of energy surged like a ripple. Yu Feng's entire face turned a bewitching shade of red, as if blood was about to drip out. A mouthful of murky black gas was spat out from his mouth and diffused into the air, bringing with it a slightly pungent smell. Bufong frowned and covered his nose with his hand. His sense of taste was more sensitive than ordinary people, so it was natural that he would have a strong reaction to the stench. The last time he ate Bufong's elixir cuisine, Yufeng did not have such a strong reaction. This time, his reaction was a little unexpected. However, Bufong did not panic at all, because this kind of reaction was normal. This bowl of dragon blood rice porridge was mixed with so many ingredients full of essence energy. Just the blood crown of the black swamp boa alone was enough to wake Yufeng up. With the addition of the essence replenishing dragon blood rice, the two complementing each other, the effect was obvious. Yufeng's aura fluctuated for a while before it settled down. His jet black hair slapped against his face. Murky sweat continuously streaked across his cheeks, along his chin, and dripped onto the ground. These were the impurities in his body. After the essence energy was replenished, his metabolism was restored. This meant that the serpent man Yufeng had completely recovered. Father! Yufu was so excited that she wanted to cry. In order to recover, she had gone through untold hardships and almost died. Now that Yufeng had recovered, there was nothing in the world that could make her happier. Yufeng's eyes were deep. He withdrew his aura and looked at Yufu lovingly. He nodded at I, who was standing beside him, and finally his gaze fell on Bufong. With a swing of his serpent tail, he appeared in front of Bufong and thanked Bufong. Many thanks for Owner Bu's elixir cuisine. I, Yufeng, will never forget your great kindness. Bufong narrowed his eyes and looked at the serpent man in front of him, who had recovered after eating his elixir cuisine. His heart was filled with joy. He nodded and gladly accepted the serpent man's gratitude. There's still a bowl of dragon blood porridge over there. Drink it and your injuries will be healed, Bufong said. The serpent man Yufeng nodded. After thanking Bufong once again, he scooped up the last bowl of porridge from the clay pot and slowly ate it. Even though the boiling hot porridge was filled with essence energy, it was still a rare delicacy. The serpent man felt extremely comfortable as he ate it. He felt as if he was about to swallow his own tongue. Owner Bu's culinary skills are simply astonishing. Once again, I thank Owner Bu for his treatment. I wonder what we could do to repay Owner Bu's kindness. The serpent man Yufeng looked earnestly at Bufong. However, Bufong waved his hand and said, "There is no need for you to do anything. I received the Ice Soul Monarch Lotus from you as a promise to the Great Elder to save you. This is an equivalent exchange. Don't take it to heart." Even though that was what Bufong said, Serpent Man Yufeng was well aware that Bufong's kindness of saving them was not something that could be repaid with a mere Ice Soul Monarch Lotus. Even though the Ice Soul Monarch Lotus was precious, Yufeng knew that this bowl of elixir cuisine contained at least 2 ingredients that were not inferior to the Ice Soul Monarch Lotus. If Owner Bu doesn't mind, let me be Owner Bu's guard. It is not easy for Owner Bu to manage such a large imperial city. Even though I don't have any other abilities, my cultivation is still passable. Yufeng thought for a moment and spoke to Bufong. As a 7th grade battle saint of the Serpent Men tribe, being the guard of a chef should be enough to repay his kindness. However, when faced with Yufeng's request, Serpent Man Yufu and Ani's expressions became a little strange. Bufong was taken aback for a moment and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Forget it. Being a guard, is Owner Bu looking down on me? Even though my cultivation is not considered the best in the Grand Serpentine City, it is still not a problem for me to roam the Light Wind Empire's imperial city. Serpent Man Yufeng said confidently. At the side, Yufu and I couldn't help but give him meaningful looks. Where is this? It was Owner Bu's store. They all knew that the current terrifying situation in the imperial city was all because of this unremarkable store that was opened in a corner. Many battle saints were spying on them, and many experts couldn't help but make a move. But what was the result? The store was still operating well. The store's security capabilities were really not lacking in Serpent Man Yufeng. Our store's security capabilities are sufficient. There is no need to trouble you. Since you have already recovered, I have fulfilled my promise. As of now, the store's business hours have already ended and it is about to close. Everyone take care. I won't be seeing you out. Bufong couldn't be bothered to say anything to Yufeng and said expressionlessly. The store had Xiaobai inside and the plump dog outside. Oh, Lord Go. These two could easily deal with a 7th grade battle saint. All right, even though Onerbu doesn't need my guard, I won't force you. However, I will be staying in the Imperial City for a year. If the store encounters any trouble, I will do my best to help you. If you have any requests, you can call me anytime, Yufeng said. After saying that, he didn't wait for Bu Feng's reply and left Bu Feng's store with Yu Fu and An I. Bu Feng helplessly looked at the backs of the 3 serpent men as they left, a strange expression on his face. This serpent man, why is he so stubborn? Could it be that I was too tactful? Sigh. If I had known earlier, I would have said it clearly. A mere 7th grade battle saint isn't good enough to be the store's guard. The corners of Bu Feng's mouth twitched. He couldn't help but feel amused in his heart. He closed the door, cleaned up the porcelain bowls and clay pot, and returned to the kitchen to practice cooking a few dishes. After that, he returned to his room to rest and maintain his sleep. The fragrance emitted by the 5 stripes path understanding tree in the store was getting stronger and stronger. The sapling was growing stronger and stronger. Yu Fu, who injured you so badly? Yufeng walked out of the alleyway, swaying slightly on the streets of the Imperial City. His face darkened as he looked at the wounds all over Yu Fu and Ani's bodies. He had wanted to ask back in the store, but he held back because Onerbu was around. However, he couldn't hold it in anymore. His daughter was actually covered in wounds. It was obvious that many things had happened while he was unconscious. Anai was a little excited. Yu Feng's recovery was like a pillar of support for them. In this Imperial City where battle saints ran amok, they finally had a guarantee. I told Yu Feng everything that happened after they arrived, including how they were held hostage by Zhao Musheng, how they had to endure cruel punishments, and so on. He also told them about the promise he made to Wu Yunbai in order to save Yu Feng and Yu Fu. How dare you, old dog? You actually dared to hurt my daughter. You're courting death. After listening to I, Yu Feng's eyes suddenly flashed with an ominous glint. With a flash of light in his hand, a jet-black spear appeared. Suddenly, a thick stench of blood emanated from a spear. Anai, take me to that old dog. I will stab him to death with my spear. Yu Feng was furious. However, I was well aware of how terrifying Zhao Musheng's mansion was. Even Wu Yunbai and Master Ah Wu, 2 battle saints, were almost killed when they barged in. No matter how strong Yu Feng was, if he were to rush in recklessly, he could still meet with misfortune. Therefore, he and Yu Fu persuaded the bellowing Yu Feng to go find Wu Yunbai first. After calming down, Yu Feng also knew that he couldn't do anything, so he nodded in agreement. However, in his heart, he had already included Zhao Musheng in his kill list. Right, Anai, buy a house near Onerbu's store some other day. We'll be staying here for a year. Since we promised to protect Onerbu's store for a year, we must keep our word, Yu Feng said to Anai as he took out a few pieces of crystals and gave them to him. Anai, that's right. Anai received the crystals in a daze, completely dumbfounded. Chapter 219. Outside the majestic gates of the Imperial City, tender green grass sprouted from both sides of the road. After being covered by the icy snow for an entire winter, the moist soil finally showed signs of recovery. The vigorous breath of life lingered around the land. Outside the Imperial City, on the wide official road, the crisp sound of footsteps rang out. From afar, a thin figure slowly approached from the horizon. It was an old man, riding a gray donkey. The old man was dressed in a long robe, and his hair was disheveled. He held a huge wine gourd in his hand as he swaggered towards the Imperial City. From time to time, the old man would open the lid of the gourd and happily take a sip of wine. Drinking wine and humming a tune, the old man had a contented look on his face. Under the majestic walls of the Imperial City, in front of the city gate, 3 figures stood. The slightly icy wind whistled past, blowing the clothes wrapped around their bodies. Master, the senior has arrived. Tang Yin's eyes lit up when he saw the old man riding a donkey. He couldn't help but say this to Ni Yin, who was standing beside him. And Yin nodded, but her mouth twitched. This old drunkard was so long-winded. He actually chose to ride a donkey from Wuliang Mountain. Could he be any funnier? Is this the senior who that master often mentions? Yi Xiling carried the longbow on her back. Her eyes widened as she looked curiously at the old man riding a donkey. If your master is talking about an old drunkard, then it's him. And Yin patted Yi Xiling's head and laughed. The crisp sound of the donkey's hooves colliding with the ground was full of rhythm. The three of them felt their hearts skip a beat. The old man riding a donkey, who was originally far away, had actually arrived in front of them in the next moment. And Yin was shocked. That was clearly a donkey. Why was it still walking so fast? You little girl, my old bones can't take the torment. If you don't get the 5 stripes path understanding fruit this time, then this old man's wine. You better not touch it in the future. The old drunkard rode on the donkey, took a sip of wine, and smacked his lips. And Yin immediately snorted and turned her head away. With owner booze, frost blaze, path understanding brew, who would covet your dragon's breath? The old drunkard dismounted from the donkey and hung the wine gourd at his waist. He straightened his pants and gave Tang Yin and Yi Xiling a mischievous smile before leading the donkey toward the imperial city. This girl is that old witch's disciple? TSK, you're really pretty. The old drunkard sized up Yi Xiling and laughed. Yi Xiling immediately looked at the old drunkard with vigilance. Just as the 4 of them were chatting and laughing as they prepared to enter the imperial capital, a melodious beast roar suddenly rang out in the distance. And Yin and the others subconsciously turned their heads to look. The old drunkard was pouring wine into his mouth as he turned his head. In the distance, a huge black dragon spread its wings and whistled as a majestic draconic might was released from its body. Oh, a 7th grade spirit beast, the black dungeon dragon. The old drunkard chuckled, and Yin and the others felt some pressure when facing the black dungeon dragon. Suddenly, their eyes narrowed as they saw a figure standing on the black dungeon dragon's back. It was an old man with a hunched back, his aura as steady as a mountain. This is an expert from the godly temple of the wildlands? And Yin murmured. An 8th grade expert from the godly temple of the wildlands had finally appeared. In a small courtyard in the imperial capital, the ghost chef Wang Ding held a kitchen knife and was elegantly dissecting a 5th grade spirit beast in front of him. His hands were very nimble, and the kitchen knife seemed to be dancing on his palms as he incessantly cut up the spirit beast. Spirit beast meat was constantly being cut off. In just a short while, a complete spirit beast had been skillfully cut up until only its white skeleton was left. Putting away the kitchen knife, the ghost chef Wang Ding wiped his hands clean. Clasping his hands behind his back, he staggered back to the small courtyard house and sat on the rocking chair, slowly rocking it. In front of the rocking chair was a huge black wok. White steam billowed out from the wok, and a strange smell wafted out from it. After sitting on the rocking chair for a while, the ghost chef Wang Ding stood up and carried in a large bucket from outside. The bucket was actually filled with the meat of the spirit beast that he had dissected earlier. He opened the lid of the big black wok, and hot steam surged out, shooting straight into the sky. Wang Ding's gaze was deep as he looked at the boiling wok. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he poured all the meat in the bucket into the wok. Rumble. The meat in the wok began to tumble at high speed. The ghost chef trembled as he took out a small jar from his bosom. Removing the lid, he used 2 withered fingers to pinch out a dark purple pill. Chuckling, he crushed the pill with his withered fingers and sprinkled the powder into the wok. The ghost chef once again covered the wok. 35 5th grade spirit beasts. Boil the meat of 2 more spirit beasts, and I will be able to brew the essence of the meat soup. When that time comes, the fight for the path understanding tree should begin. The ghost chef shakily returned to the rocking chair and lay down comfortably. A furry blanket covered his legs as he rocked back and forth on the rocking chair. Over the past few days, the store had become more and more lively. Many battle saints could no longer sit still and had come to Bufang's store in order to observe the growth progress of the 5 stripes path understanding tree. Ever since they came to Fong Fong's little store and tasted the dishes once, they were completely subdued and came every day. Being able to taste the delicacies while observing the Five Stripes Path Understanding tree and feel the Path Understanding notes emitted by the Five Stripes Path Understanding tree was not bad at all. The leaves of the Five Stripes Path Understanding tree, growing on top of a khaki-colored flower pot in the corner, had turned a deep green. The patterns on its surface were incomparably complex, and the 5 patterns were like little snakes coiling around each other. Among the leaves, 3 spirit fruits the size of an infant's fist hung heavily. They had a faint blue tint to them, and 4 cloud patterns appeared on the fruits. Everyone was well aware that when the 5th cloud pattern was born, it meant that the fruit had completely ripened. However, there were only 4 cloud patterns, and it was still a little short. "Shall serve the dishes?" Bufong's indifferent voice rang out from the kitchen. A steaming hot fish head tofu soup was placed by Bufong on the window. Ouyang Xiaoi carried the dish with ease and arrived in front of a man dressed in a red robe. "Your fish head tofu soup, please enjoy," Ouyang Xiaoi said charmingly, glancing at the gentle and handsome man dressed in a red robe. For the past few days, this man would come almost every day, and he would order a different dish every day. Every time, he would leave after eating, unlike the other battle saints who would linger in the store for a long time. "Many thanks." The man in the red robe smiled warmly at Ouyang Xiaoi, and then began to concentrate on the fish head tofu soup in front of him. Mu Lingfeng had already been completely conquered by the store's delicacies. A few days ago, when he tasted the store's delicacies for the first time, he was already taken aback. The deliciousness made all the pores on his body open up, and he could not help but feel refreshed and delighted. Not only him, but many of the battle saints around him were also used to come into Owner Boo's store for a while every day. What a pity! When the 5 Stripes Path Understanding tree matures, this store will become a battlefield, and it will be hard for it to survive. When that time comes, I wonder if I'll have the chance to taste such delicacies again. Mu Lingfeng sighed. Mu Lingfeng drank a few mouthfuls of the fresh and thick fish soup. Suddenly, his mind moved, and a jade talisman appeared in his hand. There seemed to be a message coming from it. "Elder Bien has arrived so soon." Mu Lingfeng was a little surprised. While scooping up the fish soup with a blue and white porcelain spoon, he received the message from the jade talisman. All of a sudden, Mu Lingfeng couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of fish soup. His eyes widened as he received the message from the jade talisman. His face was filled with an odd expression, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sheng Mu, that idiot, he actually invited Elder Xia here as well? And he even brought Elder Xia to the store. What is he trying to do? Already thinking of making a move? Mu Lingfeng's face revealed a speechless expression. The truth was, the 3 godly temples of the wildlands were not that harmonious. Each of the 3 temples had their own internal strife. Mu Lingfeng belonged to the Imperial Beast Hall, and Elder Bien was also an expert of the Imperial Beast Hall. Sheng Mu, on the other hand, belonged to the Ferocious Temple, a temple where everyone was simple-minded and all brawn. That Elder Xia was an elder of the Ferocious Temple, and he was famous for being a brainless destroyer. Now, the 5 Stripes Path Understanding fruit was only 1 stripe away from ripening, and this group of people had already rushed here. Wasn't this a bad thing? Chapter 220. Imperial City Imperial Palace, Main Hall. The resplendent main hall was deserted. Everyone, including the eunuchs and palace maids, had been chased out by Ji Qingxue. He reclined on the dragon throne alone, his eyes slightly closed. He was not sleeping, but contemplating. The situation in the imperial city had gradually spiraled out of his control. Even though he was the emperor, he still felt powerless. Xiaomeng sent a secret report. From the report, he learned a lot of information. The current imperial city was no longer the imperial city under his control. Even 8th grade war gods had appeared. They were existences that were several times more powerful than the Empire's top forces. They were not existences that the Light Wind Empire could contend against. In the past, there were only 7th grade battle saints. With Xiao Meng, who was at the peak of 7th grade battle saint, he could still intimidate the crowd. But in front of 8th grade war gods, it was still not enough. These unheard of 8th grade war gods had appeared in the Imperial City for the 5 Stripes Path Understanding Tree. And this Path Understanding Tree was in Ownerbu's store, so was Ownerbu's store that would suffer. Rubbing his brows, Ji Qingxue opened his eyes and lightly exhaled. Forget it. I can't think of any good ideas even if I stay here and worry about it. From now on, we can only rely on Ownerbu himself. Maybe Ownerbu has a trump card. After all, there's a suspected supreme beast guarding the store. Maybe these 8th grade war gods won't be able to destroy it so easily. Wu Yunbai looked at the man in casual clothes and half a silver mask standing in front of her. She timidly took a step back. "Big brother Zhang Kong, why are you here?" Wu Yunbai asked awkwardly. The masked man seemed to carry a sense of unfamiliarity. He glanced at the floor where Wu Yunbai lived and frowned. "Wu said you were seriously injured. Looking at you, it doesn't look like it." His voice was pleasant to the ear, but it was stiff and cold. "Commander Zhang Kong, the young lady was indeed seriously injured a few days ago, but with the help of an expert, she has recovered." Master Wu hurriedly said respectfully. This ice-cold man in front of him was not a simple person. He was one of the 4 great commanders of the White Cloud Villa. His cultivation level had reached the 8th grade war god realm, and his battle prowess was terrifying. He once tore apart a 7th grade spirit beast with his bare hands and drenched his entire body in its blood. "Who hurt you?" Zhang Kong's eyes turned and landed on Wu Yunbai as he asked calmly. "It's none of your business. I will avenge myself," Wu Yunbai said stubbornly. Zhang Kong calmly looked at Wu Yunbai, then suddenly walked into the house and reached out his hand to pat Wu Yunbai's head. "Wu, come in with me. Tell me who hurt young Miss and who saved young Mississippi." "Hey!" Wu was taken aback and hurriedly followed. Wu Yunbai puffed up her cheeks. Looking at the back of the tall and straight man, she secretly snorted and stomped her feet as she followed him in. Mayana Island Buddhist sect? Zhang Kong glanced at Wu in confusion. Why would such a weak faction dare to provoke the people of the White Cloud Villa? However, he did not ask too much. He only needed to know who hurt Wu Yunbai. Then who saved young Miss? It's the owner of Small Store. It's the one that has been the talk of the Imperial City recently. The one that owns the 5 Stripes Path Understanding Tree. Wu said respectfully. "Oh, that Small Store? On my way here, I met the old man from the godly temple of the Wildlands. Their target seems to be the Small Store. If I'm not wrong, it should be the same as the Small Store you mentioned," Zhang Kong said. Wu Yunbai's expression changed. The old man from the godly temple of the Wildlands? An old man that could attract the attention of the arrogant Zhang Kong must be an 8th grade war god. Could it be that the godly temple of the Wildlands had already started to make a move on the Small Store? Had they finally lost their patience? "Zhang Kong, say no more. I know what you want to say. However, I have my own plans. You should rest first. The waters in the Imperial City of the Light Wind Empire are a bit muddy now. My purpose of coming here is to bring you back safely and give the Villa Master an explanation. So, you better stay put." Zhang Kong interrupted Wu Yunbai, who was about to speak. He stood up, clasped his hands behind his back, and walked out of the room. Wu Yunbai was furious. This arrogant man. "Wu, keep an eye on the young miss. Before I return, don't let her leave the room," Zhang Kong said as he glanced at Master Wu. Master Wu's heart skipped a beat. His body shivered, and he hurriedly nodded. Then, Zhang Kong paid no more attention to him and left the inn. Standing on the long street of the Imperial City, surrounded by pedestrians, Zhang Kong's eyes were indifferent. He took a step forward, and the people and objects around him instantly disappeared. In the next moment, he stopped in front of a luxurious courtyard. As he looked at the courtyard, his eyes gradually became indifferent. A mere Mayana Island, a trashy force that doesn't even have an 8th grade warrior, dares to hurt the young master of the White Cloud Villa? How reckless! Zhang Kong slightly closed his eyes under the silver mask. The corners of his eyes twitched, and he curled his lips. He didn't seem to make any movements, but Zhang Kong simply raised his hand and made a grabbing motion in the air. Suddenly, a surge of spirit energy gathered in his palm. In the air, a gigantic palm made of spirit energy appeared. The palm was huge and exquisite, and the patterns on it were clearly visible. A terrifying aura spread out from the palm. Zhang Kong tilted his head and looked at the palm of spirit energy hovering above the luxurious courtyard. He slightly pressed down, and suddenly the wind and clouds surged. The houses in the luxurious courtyard trembled violently, unable to withstand the pressure. Inside the courtyard, Zhao Musheng, who was sitting cross-legged in a secret chamber, suddenly opened his eyes. A trace of fear flashed across his eyes. I wonder which warrior has arrived. Zhao Musheng, please forgive me for not coming out to greet you. With a long howl, Zhao Musheng released a terrifying aura from his body and rushed out of the courtyard. He hovered in the air above the courtyard. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his head and saw the gigantic palm above his head. His pupils constricted and his heart trembled. Zhao Musheng, it's good that you've come out. Since you dared to injure someone from my White Cloud Villa, then die. Zhang Kong indifferently looked at Zhao Musheng, who was floating in the air. The corners of his mouth slightly curled up, and he didn't waste any more words. He raised his palm and gently swung it down. Boom! With an earth-shattering sound, Zhao Musheng felt a terrifying pressure abruptly descend upon his body. The bones in his entire body emitted crackling sounds of compression. Damn it! Zhao Musheng's eyes were filled with endless fear. This kind of pressure was unparalleled. The person in front of him was actually an 8th-grade war god. The palm of spirit energy suddenly came crashing down, causing the entire ground to tremble. Zhao Musheng was directly smashed into the ground, and the entire luxurious courtyard was instantly turned into ruins. If someone were to look down from the sky, they would see that the entire courtyard's ground had caved in and transformed into a gigantic palm. A huge tremor spread out, shaking the entire imperial city. This loud sound attracted the attention of many people in the imperial city. Xiao Meng, who was in the Xiao mansion, rushed out with a palpitating heart. Feeling the terrifying pressure, he took a deep breath. An 8th-grade war god made his move. Rubble flew everywhere. Zhao Musheng, who was covered in blood, burst out from the rubble. He coldly glared at Zhang Kong. Then, without saying a word, Zhao Musheng turned around and stepped into the air to leave. However, Zhang Kong's eyes under the mask turned cold. His plain clothes fluttered, and a pair of magnificent wings formed by the condensation of clouds suddenly appeared on his back. In an instant, he appeared beside Zhao Musheng. Did I say you could leave? Zhang Kong indifferently said. Don't go too far. Zhao Musheng angrily roared. He never expected that an 8th-grade war god would attack him. He wasn't prepared at all and was almost killed. So what if I am? Do you think you're in the right after injuring my men? Zhang Kong indifferently said. His figure turned around, and with a swing of his leg, he ruthlessly smashed it into Zhao Musheng's body. The terrifying force almost tore the air apart. Zhao Musheng violently spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body aged in an instant. He staggered in the air and stood still. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth, and a hideous expression emerged on his face. He crushed a blood-colored jade pendant, and instantly, the phantom of a giant golden Buddha appeared around him. The giant Buddha's palm fiercely swatted at Zhang Kong. In the process of swatting, the giant golden Buddha turned blood red and became a hideous blood Buddha. Zhang Kong took a deep breath, and his figure leaped up. He rotated 360 degrees and directly tore the blood Buddha into pieces. The giant blood Buddha turned into a sky full of bloody light and dissipated. Very good. I thought I would have to fight to the death, but in the end, he used a feint and escaped. As expected, the older he gets, the more shrewd he becomes. But forget it. It's just a branch of the Buddhist sect, nothing to worry about. The wings behind John Kong's back disappeared, and he safely landed on the ground. He tidied up his clothes and calmly murmured. He turned around and left with his hands clasped behind his back. Behind him was a courtyard of ruins. On the long street of the imperial city, several overbearing men wearing leather jackets were rampaging about. The leader was a man whose muscles bulged like a small hill. His aura was steady and majestic, and as he moved, it was like a rumble. Suddenly, his ears twitched, and he looked at the sudden plume of smoke in the distance, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Someone actually made a move before me. Xiada. Very well, looks like I can't be left behind. Shengmu, kiddo, the store is over there. Hurry up. I can't wait to make my move. Xiada sneered, and the muscles on his face scrunched up, making him look hideous. Shengmu, riding on his cheetah, also laughed. He pointed at the entrance of the alley in front of him and said, Elder Xia, the store is on the left in front. I was originally working with that idiot, Zhao Musheng. That idiot said he could easily obtain the 5 stripes path understanding tree, and Asterisk King believed him. In the end, after working for half a day, I didn't even get a fart. That's why I called you here, Elder. Huh, you idiot. Since you're here to fight, why are you beating around the bush? Just kill your way over there. This time, I, the Elder, will teach you the meaning of aggressiveness. As a member of the ferocious temple, don't be timid when you walk the earth. You must fight. Don't be a coward, just fight. Chapter 2:21. Bu Fong walked out of the kitchen, stretched, wiped away the water stains on his hands, and pulled out a chair to sit down for a break. After spending the entire morning in the kitchen, he had finally finished cooking all the dishes ordered by the customers. Finally, he could take a break and rest. Mu Lingfeng sat in the distance, sipping his fish soup while observing Bu Fong as he walked out of the kitchen. Having been in the store for so many days, the impression that owner Bu gave him was that he was the kind of person who would not panic even if a mountain were to collapse in front of him. However, Bu Fong's culinary skills were indeed superb. At least among the delicacies he had tasted before, it was the best. If the store did not have the 5 stripes path understanding tree, Mu Lingfeng would have liked to come here for some appetizers and a little wine. What a pity an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Sitting on a treasure like the 5 stripes path understanding tree had doomed this store to a tragic end. He knew that in a short while, this store would be destroyed. Shengmu, that guy, brought Elder Xia to the store. What a pity. Mu Lingfeng took a sip of ice-hard jade earned wine and sighed. On the long streets of the imperial city, a group of strong men walked straight and finally arrived at a secluded alley. Is this the place? Elder Xia glanced at Shengmu, the muscles on his face twitching slightly as he asked. Yes, the store is in this inconspicuous alley. Shengmu patted the head of the black cheetah he was riding on and said with a chuckle. Elder Xia frowned, the corners of his mouth curling slightly. What a remote place. How could a 5 stripes path understanding tree appear in such a secluded alley? However, he did not say too much and led the group into the alleyway. Regardless of whether this store was located in a remote area or not, their target was only the 5 stripes path understanding tree. As for the store, that was not what they were concerned about. If it was too annoying, they could just casually destroy it. Standing at the entrance of the store, Elder Xia cracked his neck, the muscles on his body bulging like dragons. Shengmu narrowed his eyes, dismounted from the back of the cheetah, and turned to Elder Xia. Elder Xia, should we go in or let's go? Let's see how the 5 stripes path understanding tree looks like. Is it really like what you said? To be honest, I still don't believe what you said. How could a treasure like the 5 stripes path understanding tree appear in such a remote place? Xiao pursed his lips. Shengmu was stunned and didn't know what to say. But soon, he grinned and led his people into the store. The moment they stepped into the store, the warm atmosphere inside caused their expressions to slightly change. As 7th grade battle saints, they were extremely sensitive to spirit energy. The air was filled with the rich aroma of the dishes and spirit energy that could make one feel hungry. It was simply unbelievable. The environment inside and outside the shop were completely different. The path understanding trees, path understanding notes echoed from time to time, making people feel enlightened. There really is a 5 stripes path understanding tree. Shengmu's eyes lit up as he looked at Elder Xia, who had also stepped into the store. The latter's expression also became strange. Let's eat in order. Look at the menu behind you. Let me know what you want to eat. Seeing several burly men step into the store, Ouyang Xiaoyi frowned slightly. The store was not big to begin with. Once these people came in, it became a little crowded. Eat? Ha! Little girl, I'm not here to eat today. I'm here to ask for treasures. Shengmu laughed. Ouyang Xiaoyi was taken aback, a little confused. Sitting on a chair, Bufang frowned and glanced at this burly man. Call the owner of the store out. If he still wants to keep this store open in this remote corner, then tell him to stop wasting time. Shengmu was incomparably domineering. Bufang stood up, shielded Ouyang Xiaoyi behind him, and walked in front of this group of people. I'm the owner of the store. Is there anything I can help you with? In the distance, Mu Lingfeng shook his head. As expected, this group of simple-minded, brawny experts from the ferocious hall had come. But he did not move. He was still sitting in his original position, drinking the delicious fish soup. Something? Of course there is. Didn't you hear what I said earlier? I'm here to ask for treasures? Don't play dumb with me. Where's the 5 stripes path understanding tree? Hand it over. Shengmu clenched his fists. The muscles on his face quivered, and he began to laugh maliciously. Bufang looked at him expressionlessly, pursed his lips, and then said, There are many who ask for treasures from me. Who do you think you are? Shengmu was taken aback. Then his eyes widened, and a murderous aura surged. However, before he could make a move, Shengmu was taken aback. He felt a sharp aura surging from outside the door, locking onto him. He was causing trouble in the store. Outside the door, a cold voice rang. A figure stood outside. The crowd, including Bufang, looked toward the door in confusion. Soon, they realized that the person who was clamoring was actually a serpent man. Bufang did not know whether to laugh or cry. This serpent man, Yufeng, really intended to protect his store. He actually dared to come out at this time. The aura of this group of people before him was very strong. Where did he get his confidence from? Oh, you're here to protect this store? Shengmu chuckled. A 7th grade Battle Saint Serpent Man. Was this store's trump card? That would really be a little boring. Owner Bu, I promised you that I would protect the store. I'm a man of my word. The Serpent Man Yufeng said seriously. A pitch-black spear appeared in his hand. With a sweep of the spear, it was aimed at the group of ferocious hall warriors in the store. Bufang was about to say something, but Shengmu and the others had already walked out of the store and came to the alleyway, confronting the Serpent Man Yufeng. Bufang rolled his eyes, not knowing what to say. Even though he did not know whether to laugh or cry, he was still a little touched. A Serpent Man has appeared in the imperial city of the Light Wind Empire? Interesting. Among the crowd, Xia Da's lips curled into a smile. He looked at the Serpent Man Yufeng and laughed. The illusory spirit swamp's grand serpentine city is famous even in the hidden dragon continent. The serpentine sovereign single-handedly established a prosperous city in the harsh, illusory spirit swamp, attracting the attention of countless people. I wonder if you're from the serpentine sovereign's grand serpentine city? Xiao asked calmly. The Serpent Man Yufeng was taken aback. Then he frowned and said with a sweep of his spear, Even though I'm not a serpent man from the grand serpentine city, I was fortunate enough to meet the serpentine sovereign. As he said this, Yufeng was quite proud. As a branch of the Serpent Men tribe, to be able to meet the legendary serpentine sovereign was a supreme honor. Oh, you've met the serpentine sovereign? Then I'll give the serpentine sovereign some face. Get lost. Xiao glanced at the Serpent Man Yufeng, waved his hand, and sneered. Shengmu and the others around him also burst into laughter. The Serpent Men, this was a race that they looked down upon. The Serpent Men were equivalent to the Beast Men. In the depths of the wildlands, there were also beastmen. These beastmen lived in the depths of the wildlands and were the lowest of the low. Now, a serpent man was actually clamoring in front of them to protect the store. It was indeed a little ridiculous. Bufong leaned against the doorframe, calmly watching the confrontation in the square. Behind him, the chubby Xiao Bai was already standing like a block of wood, his red mechanical eyes flashing. Arrogant. The serpent man Yufeng did not recognize the muscular man in front of him, but he could hear the disdain and humiliation in the man's words. This was unforgivable. Get lost? What a ridiculous arrogance. Yufeng was taken aback. With a swing of his serpentine tail, the true energy in his body gushed out, and the pitch-black spear was fiercely thrust toward the arrogant man. The air seemed to be shredded into pieces at this moment. Crashing noises resounded incessantly, and the violent waves of true energy surged up violently, causing the weather in the alleyway to change. Once a 7th-grade battle saint attacked, its power was absolutely terrifying. The faces of Sheng Mu and the others froze. This serpent man's cultivation level was indeed strong. No wonder he dared to stand out and clamor. Any 7th-grade battle saint present would not be able to win against him. What a pity. This serpent man had no idea who was standing in front of him and what kind of existence he was. Xiaoda stood in place without moving. His eyes narrowed. When the powerful spear was 1 meter away from his body, Xiaoda slowly raised his muscular palm. Creak! An ear-piercing sound rang out. The serpent man Yufeng's pupils constricted. The pitch-black spear he thrust out was actually caught by the human in front of him with a single hand. Bufong, who was leaning against the doorframe, was also dumbfounded. To be able to single-handedly stop the attack of a 7th-grade battle saint, the cultivation level of this big guy in front of him was obviously not simple. No wonder he dared to come to the store and clamor. So he is relying on his high-end combat prowess to join us? The corners of Bufong's mouth twitched as he lightly mumbled to himself. However, he was not the slightest bit worried. He patted Xiao Bai's plump belly, not the slightest bit flustered. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.